All right, Kingkillers. In this episode, we're covering chapters 69 through 71. We're going to go more in depth into what's up with Denna beyond just her relationship with Kvothe. Why does she do what she does? What's her backstory? What happened to her when she was in Anilin? Then we're going to see Kvothe get stabbed, get another visit with Devi, a funny and intense negotiation, and a long yet very entertaining horse ride. Then we discuss how homaging Jurassic Park and Frozen 2 is a guaranteed way to make every movie a success, more on Kavothe's nerd-ass cloak that he loves talking about, and his hot pan temper leading to threats of cannibalism. Then we finish off with making fun of Fitz after he suggests that we really haven't gone into many theories yet. So sit back and enjoy.
Welcome back, killers, to the most totally extreme and in your fucking face broadcast. Kingkiller podcast. Killers, tonight, tell your children not to walk my way because I'm going hungry. I'm joined by Danzig and Temple of the Dog. Say what's up, has-beens of yesteryear.
What?
I've never been.
I missed
Never been a has-been.
Danzig. You're Danzig, Dan.
What is Danzig?
Yeah, and I'm Temple of the Dog. You don't know Danzig?
No. What is that?
It's a band. It was a band that was
Look,
pretty big.
if I don't
TV
get
days.
it, there's almost guaranteed that our audience is not going to get it.
No, that people
They
know
get it,
Danzig.
Dan.
No.
They know him.
Yes,
No,
people
not
know.
if
It's
I don't.
also isn't it also a port town in Poland that was taken by the Nazis?
This is getting stupid.
I think.
No, I don't know that.
I think. Oh, anyway, I don't know if Fitz's intention was to bring back some '90s rock.
Awesome
Is that late
music.
'80s?
Awesome. Hey, yes. And to let you know how serious I was about it, Tim. I'll be epic. Fitz no more. And now that you all know, I know that you want it all, but you can't have it. So let's get into chapter 69.
All right.
I committed. But hey,
I
chapter
guess.
69. Huh?
I don't even know. I don't even know if you did. I guess. So maybe somebody gets those references.
I committed. So anyway, chapter 69, huh?
Yeah.
Is chaptered Wind or Women's Fancy. In this chapter, Kvothe starts off by getting drunk with Diak and talking about Denna. We learn that Diak is at least interested in her, and he gives Kvothe some good insight into women in general. Kvothe leaves the bar, and he gets jumped, or mugged. He manages to escape, but realizes that the men were actually hired to kill him, and found him by dousing with his hair. Kvothe returns to Anchor's, where he finds a note from Denna, but quickly leaves for fear he's being followed. Kvothe goes onto the roof of the library, where he attaches loose strands of hair to bits of tar and casts them to the wind in differing directions. Alodin sneaks up on Kvothe up there and startles him. Kvothe returns to Anchor's, where he reads Denna's note, but then quickly leaves Anchor's, sends Bloody Shirt down the river, and stays at an unfamiliar inn. Guys?
So yeah, you get a lot in this episode, or in this chapter. There's, it basically break it down into 3 parts. And I like at the beginning when he talks about, he's constantly going down to Imre, searching for Denna. He's got his new cloak, though, keeping him warm. He goes and he gets a second shirt to replace the one he'd lost. So he's kind of building back up his massive wardrobe. And then
Yeah, I like that he's getting some money coming in from what he's been making in the fishery. I like the money to spare for luxuries such as soap. Apparently that's a luxury. So most of the time this dude must smell like shit.
Nah,
Or
man.
pretty heavy BO.
He's got
at
that.
least.
He's got manly musk.
He's
Manly
carrying BO.
Musk.
That
be
old
up.
creek water and rock smell.
Yeah, I guess.
Washing with dirt. Yeah.
I guess so. But yeah, I thought that was pretty. But it's cool. It's cool. He's got, he's kind of got, for him, somewhat flush with, cash.
Yeah, he's got a little bit extra. And I like that he talks about how he would go over to Imre to buy his supplies to make like he was making a sympathy lamp, and that was the reason he goes over to Imre in this particular scene, was to buy the supplies because he could save a few pennies on it. And so you get a little bit of the economics and the dynamic between Imre and the university, where you got the little price differences just between the two towns based on convenience. And so it's a nice little touch. It shows that he's he'll work for it, and he'll go the extra mile just because of the position he's in, and it shows the convenience of the other students. They're willing to pay more because they got more.
Yeah, I like those types of things that he does when he brings in these cultural significant little subtle touches that are true to our world as well. It's those types of things that ties this world he's created to our reality that makes it more believable. And I also thought it was pretty, sort of cleverly done, and it gives justification for why he would have the basalt fillings on him, right? Because he ends up using these.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way for that to have happened, and this is a nice way to sort of fit it in and build out the world. It's a nice combination of a few things getting done.
Yeah. Then he goes. When he gets, I like the part, his interaction with Diak. It's a nice little scene, the whole entire scene, because especially like the first time you go through it, you learn a lot about Denna, that it fills her out a little bit more, and you get, the dynamic where Diak is kind of a little bit older, a little bit wiser man, kind of educating young Kvothe on women, giving him a little bit of a better understanding of her situation, what women have to go through in the world, just kind of illuminating exactly the differences between his situation and hers. Even though, his situation is bad, it kind of gives him a counterexample of how much worse it could be and what he would have to do if he was in her shoes.
Yeah, I thought it was extremely insightful for Kvothe. Finally, to learn not only just about women, but about Denna and the way she really is. And also, Diak just makes a nice comparison between him and her that's real insightful for him, because Kvothe had no idea at this point that she had no family, nobody, no nothing, that she was really in touch with him or in sync with him as far as where her background was.
It's important for the reader too, because it's enforcing it for us to focus and to realize the difference, and to realize, how things are for her, how much more difficult it is, because we see it through Kvothe's eyes. We see, why isn't she more accessible? We were frustrated by certain aspects of her, and now we get a deeper justification through this meeting. It's also just great in the sense that I can't think of a lot of circumstances where I've read about an interesting interplay that I've experienced in my own life, where it's two guys talking about a girl they've dated that they're both kind of vexed with. It's an interesting sort of dynamic that, and it really plays out so beautifully too, because they're both sort of like, not licking their wounds, but in a way almost like they can't figure this girl out. They're both kind of drinking and sort of ponderous about it and stuff. I really like it. I like this part of the chapter is really, really cool for me. It has a lot of payoff.
Yeah, I agree. The way that they fed off each other.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying the way that they fed off each other, as far as like adding on to each other's realizations when it came to Denna, and especially for Kvothe. I'll bring it back to that, because it really meant something for Kvothe as far as his character development in what he should have realized about Denna in the first place.
One aspect of it, like I totally did not feel, was when Kvothe said something along the lines of, there's nothing more that will unite two men than talking about like a woman they both, chased after or whatever it was along those lines. It's like, well, I've never felt that at all. It's the exact opposite feeling. is like, like tell me you've hooked up with, my ex, and it's not going to be like, oh, let's reminisce. Let's both talk about her. It's being like, no, let's never
Eiffel
ever
Tower
mention
thing?
her ever again between each other. We'll never talk about this ever again.
It depends. I mean, for me, I have more so had that experience that you just described than I have another. But there's a particular woman that comes in mind that was one of the craziest women I dated, and a friend of mine dated her after me. So that was kind of funny to have a back and forth about, like, so she's still nuts, and sort of like figuring
Tim,
that sort of thing out.
Was it me? Was it me?
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
you.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
It would
but
be.
I didn't have as close a relationship, anywhere close to as near a relationship with her as I did with the woman I'm talking about.
Well, like it's different. Like if it's like someone you don't really know, like as far as the girl, like you're not like super close with her. That's fucking different. Like, but if it was like someone you've
the girl
like
that
pined
I was talking
after
about
or whatever, it's like no, I'm not gonna fucking want to socialize with someone about some girl we both pined after.
Well, while I hear you, it depends on how it ended. That's the most important thing in my book, in terms of the circumstance I'm talking about. The girl that Fitz is talking about, that we once walked into a bar and
surface.
It was
in both of our scenarios, it was pretty surface. It wasn't anything deep. But she was a mystery. That's why it reminds me. She's like Denna.
Yeah, it was very. She's one of the examples I have that is like Denna, because she is confounding. And the interesting thing was, once you, me, and Swaim and someone else all walked into a bar, and she knew every single one of us, and every single one of us had like a surface relationship with her that didn't go further, and we all wanted it to. It was a really interesting situation that kind of played out there. But in the one I'm talking about, when the relationship ends where you're like, no, there's no way this is ever going to work. I'm never going to talk to this girl again. And then a friend reaches out to me like, hey, do you know this girl? And I'm just like, yeah, man, I know her. Like, what? And then he's just like, what do you think? And I'm just like, well, had to give a little bit of a warning, No,
I'm far too competitive.
I thought Diak was
I
gay.
can just tell, like, from this conversation, like it would like raise my blood pressure. Like I would get like be so competitive in my mind over the situation. I'm just saying, I get what you guys are saying, and I'm just like trying to put myself in your guys' shoes, and I'm like, nope, still wouldn't be that way. It would still be a competitive thing where it would be like, I get it. No.
But bear in mind, I'm also married, and I know this was a bullet I dodged, so I had a different psychosis on it. But yeah, I heard you, Fitz. I thought I got a little reminder in my mind where it's like, oh yeah, Diak's not gay, and I remember there was one or two circumstantial reasons why I thought that maybe he was.
No, he is,
and I don't remember what those were.
He's bisexual.
He's bi or something.
Him and Diak and Stanchion are together.
See, I didn't remember this conversation and him going after Denna when. Later on, I found out that him and Stanchion were together.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's pining after. There's no way, Dan. Well, I'm on your side here. If I'm pining after a woman currently, I'm not friends with her other guy.
No, I agree with that completely. I agree with that 100%. I'm saying I have had this experience because of a different situation. Again, 99% of the time, or I don't know, maybe not that much, but most of the time, it's no, fuck you. I don't want to hear about this. I don't want to hear about any dude with some, girl that I liked. But in the circumstance of somebody that it's never going to happen with again, it's a little bit different.
But it doesn't seem like Diak's really after her.
No, now they're at a point that he says it's kind of like a little sister type of dynamic.
Yeah, but he definitely cares for her.
Yeah, clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of information about her.
Yeah, and it's kind of a little bit creepy because he's almost, around 30, and she's what, 16, 17, 18, in that range.
Yeah.
And he's known her over a year ago. Like, yeah, he's definitely towing the line there.
Yeah.
But, or, I mean, maybe she's older. Maybe
rocking the cradle
Could
anyway.
be that she's older than we think, but.
I never thought about that, Dan. That's the first time anyone mentioned that, right?
Anybody mention what?
That Denna might be older.
No,
never
I
even thought
brought
about
that
that.
up when they first, when they first meet. Like Kvothe thinks she's like a young girl, but I don't think that's 100% likely because of who she is, what her situation is, her
Yeah,
knowing
her savvy.
Diak chasing after her. It seems unlikely that she was 16 years old when he saw her. She doesn't seem like a 16-year-old. Could be, who knows? I mean, he doesn't seem like a 15-year-old, but there's no confirmation on her age, and so we don't know exactly how old she is. But yeah, he was definitely towing that line, with
it
the
does.
older man going
Yeah,
after the super young chick.
yeah, that definitely comes across, or at least I definitely felt so.
And I like to just the interaction's great because you get Kvothe like sitting there. It's like, women don't like Denna? And
Yeah,
he's like, good Lord, boy, you don't understand women. And it's such a great lie, especially after you get all these interactions where Kvothe is constantly remarking on the fact that he doesn't understand women. He's a kid, and then Diak just says it straight to his face, like, good Lord, boy. And so it's a classic. And then he goes back to the like, oh, and then then I thought of Sim sitting there saying like, it's
Yeah.
enough to make you hate a man, which that is not like men that I know. Like that's not a typical man trait. I'm sure there are men like that fuck it. But like an example would be like, I don't watch Fight Club and get jealous of Brad Pitt. I just love that fucking movie and think he's awesome in it. And the fact that women fucking love him for a totally different reason, I don't give a shit about. I don't like get jealous of of the women that the men that women like fucking slobber over. Never get jealous
Yeah.
over them. I never fucking feel that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
what's
Stanchion said gives new meaning to the phrase of what he said. Nothing like a woman's scorn or whatever it is. He mentions a woman's scorn, and you think about it like towards a man, but really, yeah, that's what makes him. That's what surprises Kvothe about what he's saying. And he's like,
No.
Says,
He doesn't talk about a woman scorned. He's saying like a woman. The reason women hate him, hate her, is because all the men love Denna. Like they all find.
Men's adoration and women's scorn in roughly equal amounts. And what he's referring to is women hate the fact that she gets all the attention from the men, and that's how women are, man. That is how, I mean, in my experience, that's how most women are, or many at least.
Yeah, and like he says, like, good Lord, you really don't know anything about women, do you? I would ordinarily have bristled at his comment, but Diak was nothing but good natured. Think of it, she's pretty and charming. Men crowd around her like stags and rut. He made a flippant gesture. Women are bound to resent it. I remembered what Sim had said about Diak not a span ago. He managed to get the most beautiful woman in the place again. It's enough to make you hate a man. I've always felt she was rather lonely. I volunteered. Maybe that's why. So yeah. When, it doesn't surprise me that women would hate a woman like Denna. Like that makes perfect sense, especially how she interacts with men and what she's doing. Like because the one thing that Diak kind of makes clear is one, she is, partially a courtesan. She'll also, she will get in working relationships with groups, like, would ride with a caravan to kind of attract other people and kind of help their business. And so she'll be the basically the Vanna White type. So she'll do those type of things as well. She can make business relationship, but she also will go the courtesan route too. And so he lays out a dynamic where, like, if you're another girl and you're not getting that kind of admiration, that kind of attention from men from all corners, yeah, I could see where the jealousy would come in. just because of, their women's dynamic is completely different than how men react to each other.
Don't you think that this topic, this subject, is probably part of the reason why a lot of people say that Denna is not realistic? Right? Because she has these qualities that women find to not be realistic because they like the way they are. You know what I'm saying? So like that resentment could even be peppering their perception of a realistic character.
Like what I could see it as is the reason, like, I think, a lot of women might not relate to Denna is because the women who I think of that are like Denna, they don't hang out with other girls. They hang out with men.
Yeah.
And so if you're not like Denna, it's going to be harder to relate because, the Dennas of the world don't hang out with other women. Like, I mean, it's a
that's kind of what
I'm
saying,
similar
yeah.
trait. They're almost like one of the boys. They're obviously they're not guys. They're feminine, and especially if they're fucking attractive, it's a different dynamic. But still, they're kind of one of the boys.
So what I liked about this little scene right here is where we just, as a first time reader, you just learned that Denna is a courtesan. And Deoch immediately explains to you the repercussions of not being a courtesan in this situation. In being, she's in Kvothe's situation as a female. She can't work as a line cook because she's going to get raped and taken advantage of that way because she doesn't have family or anyone to protect her. And the only way that she can really make it and survive, but also overcome and be productive, is to tease it and do what she's doing.
And not only
it almost
not only
brings
like
respect
tease
to
it,
the.
it's just it's more. I think of it more as to be a hustler. She's got to be on her game. She's got to play a game, and so if that means means being the pretty face in a caravan, she'll do that. If that means fucking working some fucking chump and running game on him and running the hustles, the scams to fucking rob him of his money, she'll do that. If it means being a courtesan, she'll do that. She's just a straight hustler.
She's a hustler,
And in this world with her situation, like I agree with Deoch. I don't blame her. I don't judge her. Like I respect the.
She
fucking
has no
hustle.
choice though.
Well, she's choosing to take a difficult route because she could. She's had many, many chances to let some dude just take care of her, but she's not going to do that. That doesn't fit her personality. She could just lay back and let this dude take care of her, put her up in a nice place, buy her clothes, buy her food. She doesn't have to struggle, but that doesn't fit her personality. There was an element.
I mean, but in her shoes, I wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't be some fucking kept dude. Fuck that.
I thought
it immediately made me kind of think, holy shit! Like I was shocked the first time I read it, but then immediately added respect to what she's doing.
When they started to talk about her, not being kept down and traveling, I thought it was interesting that Deoch said, in part, I think it is her nature. It could be she simply has wandering blood. I started to think, and I'm sure there's probably plenty of evidence to shut it down, but I started to think, is it possible she has Rue blood? It kind of made me think of that, given wandering blood. That's edema Rue.
Yeah,
you'd think she would have mentioned it, though. Like, why would she keep that a secret?
Well, it's not, but that's part of the thing about them. They don't talk about their past. So I could see there being a payoff in the future where it's like they find out they have this they're closely related in a way where it's like, how did we not talk about this? And it's like neither of them talk about their past with each other.
Yeah, but I mean, you would think she would know that he's one of the Rue, because everybody else does. So the fact that she's as close to him as she is, and you would think that would come out. I do think there's got to be a dynamic to her past in, her family. There's got to be something to that. But for her to be Rue, seems like a lot of work. Like, and you would think like if she's the Rue, then that would she probably had some kind of tragic circumstance in her life to put her in the position that she's in. So you think it would lower your opinion of the Rue, and I don't think that's the route he's going. Like he shits on the Rue so much, and then when he shows them in the actual light, they're all pretty fucking decent people. Then to go the route of showing her like growing up in a Rue family and she has this fucking terrible upbringing and has to escape them or something, or she's gonna get married off. Like it's I would be surprised if he would go that route.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I would.
You could also think that her family was killed.
Well, I was going to say
from this chapter, because Diak says she has no family. When he questions Diak about where she came from, he's like, she has no family, no friends.
Yeah,
but I don't think he like I don't think he knows like what her upbringing was based off that. I just think he's not dumb. He can look at Denna. She's not, she's not turning to her family for, money. She's not borrowing on their name. She's fucking just hustling. Like you could put two and two together that, her family's not in the picture, and you could put that together without knowing exactly what happened. Because like if Diak knows what happens, then you would think like that Kvothe would have, asked like Rothfuss. If I don't think Rothfuss wrote it in where Diak knows the history of her upbringing, and then there's just no interaction between him and Kvothe where that information is leaked out. That would seem like a weird choice.
I know. I don't think that would be the case. But what I am wondering is that maybe he's picking up on something, and maybe Rothfuss has him saying "wandering blood" to hint at the possibility, to hint at the possibility of that being the case. But there's no other evidence. I don't have any other evidence to back that up. It's literally this little piece. So I thought I'd mention it.
I
got what you were saying. I was my response was towards with what Fitz was saying. I wasn't contradicting yours. But I don't. There's obviously something has to happen with her family. I don't think Diak knows. Seems like Rothfuss wouldn't have wrote it that way.
Seems like no one knows.
In this situation, if Diak knew, you would think he would have fucking talked about it. Like he would have said, like her upbringing was very, very bad. It ended badly. She lost her parents. It wouldn't just be like she doesn't have her family. It would be like she lost her parents because they were killed. If he knew, like
you would think
gave the extra information.
Yeah, you would think if he knew and Rothfuss was going to have him deliver it, this would be the point. And that didn't happen. Yeah. So I have to mention on the same page because it's one of my favorite things. And it's a small thing, but I love it so much, where Diak is trying to create like an analogy for trying to describe how she, is basically a man's woman, and he's having trouble finding the analogy. So then Kvothe tries to help him out, and he's like, well, you know what they say, finding the right analogy is as hard as, and then he starts grabbing at the air. Like he's trying to like literally grab for the words. It's like a visual analogy to illustrate the difficulty of finding the right words. Like literally trying to grab them, and to be able to read that in the book. That's the type of thing that I get. Like I like it so much. It makes me like smile and laugh about it. But yeah. So when I see things like that, I can't help but mention them. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the classic, like, it's like trying to find the right, it's like trying to come up with the right, like you can't come up with the right words.
What I love about it so much is when you're reading a book and it's being acted out, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not being articulated, and that's the whole point. It can't be articulated. They're having trouble articulating it, so they're not even articulating it themselves and pantomiming it. It's fucking great, man. It's just a really clever type of little thing. But
that shit is very well written, and the whole scene is amazing the way it's written.
Yeah, it's great, man. The back and forth is great. Their choice of what to drink and what will like, supplement their conversation most correctly.
Yeah.
that whole
It's like
back and
wine
forth.
romanticizes the ambiance, right?
Yeah, they even quoted Tecum, I believe. Out of all spirits, only wine is suited to reminiscence. A good wine allows clarity and focus while still allowing a bit of comforting coloration of the memory. And the whole thing was like beer dulls a memory, brand sets it burning, but wine is the best for a sore heart's yearning. Did Kvothe write that?
So what?
No, whatever.
I don't remember who said that.
Diak said it.
But
yeah.
well, yeah, and then outside of that, I do like that Kvothe, finds it galling to not stand his round, so he buys his own bottle, and they switch drinks, and they speak poetically when they're doing their little toast. So there's some kind of nice flourishes. But when he leaves the bar, then we go from a scene where we're learning a little information about Denna, and they're having a kind of good back and forth. It's kind of interesting, and then all of a sudden he leaves, and then bam, he gets assaulted by two dudes.
That's like immediately.
And yeah, and I like the aspect of it. He's like, is it because I've been gone from Tarbean for too long? I've grown comfortable. It's because I'm drunk, and he's kind of trying to analyze why he slipped up and let two dudes sneak up on him and snatch him off the street. But we get some good stuff when they do. So one particular part that always is interesting to me is when they pull him into the alley, and he goes, "We know it's him," the tall one said impatiently. "Let's just do this and have it over with. I'm cold. Like hell, check it now, while he's close. We've lost him twice already. I'm not having another cock up like an Anilin." So what's interesting to me is they talk about, I'm not having another cock up like an Anilin. And that's where Denna goes when she separates from Kvothe. And the first time that they meet each other. When Kvothe goes to university, she goes to Anilin. And these guys are talking about, I don't want to have another cock up like an Anilin. I would be surprised if whatever that cock up is not related to Kvothe or Denna. I would be surprised. I don't know if you guys, when you come across that, if you guys thought anything of it about it, but I don't have a lot of good answers, but I have a lot of questions on it.
I thought simply because I know Denna went there, but if that's the case, then Ambrose wouldn't be behind this, right?
Correct. Or
that's interesting.
Someone else was behind the situation in Anilin, and Ambrose is behind this situation. It could be that as well. They're hired thugs.
Well,
so it doesn't necessarily mean the same person hired them in both situations. Could be two different people hired them in two different situations.
But there's no mention of Kvothe ever being an Anilin, right?
No, he was never an Anilin. So, here I'll run down some of the things that I it could be. It could be that Denna was, when she was with the group, her role was to lure Kvothe to Anilin. Maybe there was someone that's been after Kvothe this whole time. So in that scenario, then whoever hired these guys is not Ambrose, because this is before he met Ambrose. So in that scenario, maybe Denna was hired to
has a hair. She's got a hair on her. No,
that's interesting. This is like James Bond type thing where she's trying to lure him in, but then falls in love with him. This is total James Bond type stuff.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. It could. I would be surprised if that's the case, but it is a scenario that's a possibility when you think about that situation when they're talking about another cock up. Or it could be another scenario. Could be that, and Anilin, she talks about nothing good happened. Nothing unexpected, but nothing good. It could be that Denna is also an important figure. She's clearly important, obviously, for Kvothe's story, but it could be that she's important to other people's roles. Seems like her patron sees her as an important figure outside of Kvothe. And so it could be that someone tried to fucking take her out in Anilin and they fucked it up. So it could have been that she was hunted in Anilin. So that could be a scenario as well.
Can I just stop you on that point? Because if that's the case, then whoever a patron is in that importance has to either have to do with their relationship and the two characters together, or that someone's been after Kvothe for that long
Well,
and realized the connection between him and Denna.
I think what that suggests, what Dan's talking about, would in the second theory would suggest she has, like a bloodline, right? Like she's
Okay.
I'm saying like she could be important in her own right.
That's what I mean.
It seems like she's important in her own right. It doesn't seem like her patron is necessarily interested in Kvothe, and she seems to, indicate when she's in Severin with him when he's seeing the mayor. She's like, when they talk about her patron, and her patron like shits on all the men that chased after her, and he's like, what do they say about me? And she's like, oh, I never tell him about you. He doesn't know about you. And she's like, you're just to myself. It could be that he knows about Kvothe from other means rather than, that he knows about him by spying on her or something. But I don't get the feel through two books that her patron is really focused on Denna because of Kvothe. I think he's focused on Denna for Denna.
I like this.
Whether he knows Kvothe or not, I think that is a side issue. I think he's focused on Denna for Denna.
Is there any other mention of Denna being of royal bloodlines or anything like that?
No, there's no mention of that. Like, yeah, I would have brought that up. Yeah,
I kind of like
no mention of her. We don't know anything about her upbringing.
I kind of like the idea. I mean, I really like the idea that they're both like of the oldest bloodline. Like they go all the way back, and the Emir or whomever are aware of this, and someone's trying to. This is what the interference is. They're running interference on the two of them. And what's so intriguing about that to me is they don't. The idea that neither of them would possibly know that. We don't know if Denna does know that. Perhaps she does, and she's running away from it, which makes her a lot like Kvothe's mother, which we're getting a lot of parallels here, which, I mean, it's fucking great.
That's an interesting parallel, Tim.
No, but I like that.
I hadn't thought about...
I like this idea. I like that. I haven't really thought about Denna. I mean, I've thought a lot about who Denna could be, what her background is, but it's so funny. We talk about it. Doesn't matter how many times, there's still more coming out. And I haven't thought about her really being royal lineage of the oldest. And I like that there's these different levels of that lineage, right? There's like Sim's family, but then there's Ambrose, and then there's the mayor, and then there's go all the way back. There's like, the Celatos Lanre bloodline. There's the Ruark bloodline. And that's what it seems like Kvothe is kind of at the peak of that bloodline. And then ironically called the Bloodless at the same time, right? So I like the idea that maybe Denna parallels that in Kvothe, like in her own form.
I tend to believe that Denna is important in her own right. I don't think she's just important because she's associated with Kvothe. It
seems like it's more than that to
like
me,
the less likely scenario, given how much shit she's involved in as far as her patron. She's at the Mothin Farm. She's in Severin. She's writing the song about Lanre and Lyra, or about Lanre at least. And so, like, it seems like she's important in her own right outside of Kvothe.
Hey, Dan, now that you say that, she's a part of every one of the important things that Kvothe is a part of, only just before him. I hadn't noticed that before, but she's there right before him every time.
The Mothin Farm,
right?
the Dracus,
and Mothin Farm coming up. I mean,
a few of the aspects, she's there. But regardless of like when or why she's there, like she's in. There's important aspects of things she's doing that seem to stand outside of Kvothe, that it doesn't seem like she is working Kvothe or trying to manipulate him or trying to control him. It seems like someone's controlling her and steering her, and it seems like she's important outside of Kvothe. I don't think she's important because of Kvothe.
Hey,
that rings true to
Dan.
me. I just want to say that to me that I get that impression from everything compiled out of the 2 books of both their character arcs. They interlace and everything, but yeah, I it seems like the threats to Denna seem to be independent of Kvothe, as far as I can tell.
So now, and now that you say it, Dan, and now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of a time that Kvothe meets Denna where she wasn't there before he was.
Well, like in Imre,
he goes
well,
and
like
finds her there. She never.
Well, like in Imre, like at the Aeolian, like she had been in Anilin, and so she came back. Like the 2, the 2 of the big ones, obviously, are.
She may have showed up at Anchors.
She's already at the Mothan farm before he is. She seemingly. I don't know if she's in Severin before him or not. I mean, there's no clear indication. Yeah. Like she could have been there just before him or just after him. There's no clear indication one way or the other. And then
she is where she meet the mayor at? She meets the mayor before him, right?
No. She does not meet the
town.
mayor. She never meets the mayor.
No, I'm thinking of her patron.
Yeah.
There's a time at Anchor, just to tease him out, there's a time at Anchors when he's playing and he sees her, and it seems like I got the impression he was there first, but there's no hard evidence to show that, but it seemed like he was playing.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's like any situation. I don't think there's plenty of situations where he's somewhere first. Like he's in Imre long before her. Like, after he goes to university, she goes to Anilin. He's there for fucking 6 months where she's not there, and then she just shows up. So, I don't think there's anything to read into, like, that he's showing up after her. Like, I don't think there's, like, anything to, like, puzzle out there. But I do think that what you could puzzle out is, like, the Mothan farm, which, we'll get into in the next episode, but like the fact that he gets to the Mothan farm and she's already there, it's written in a way where it seems very fucking clear that she was not there because of Kvothe. Like,
she's left.
She was
the only survivor.
She was just like, we'll talk about that. Like, that'll come up in this episode. But she's shocked to see him. So I don't get the impression that she's there for him, but she's there at a massively important event in these 2 books, and it seems like she was there outside of Kvothe being any part of the reason. So it seems like she's important in her own right. I don't think like she's only important in respect to Kvothe. Meaning, like, I don't think that she's trying to manipulate him or trying to work him, or someone's trying to use Denna to fuck with Kvothe. I think she's important outside of Kvothe. If Kvothe didn't exist, I still think she would be important.
Well, she's the only survivor at a wedding where 100 people were slaughtered by the Chandrian. Kvothe was the only survivor for his family and his troop, but comparatively, times 10 or so.
Yeah,
so you're
and
right.
She was
right.
Brought,
that was a huge
brought
event
there where it clearly seemed like she was spying on that wedding. She was not. She didn't know that was her purpose, but it seems clear that's what her purpose was from her patron.
It seemed like her patron, at least knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Or no, it's certain.
Her
patron knew what was going to happen.
It's not certain, but it's insinuated that he knew. It's not certain, but it's definitely insinuated.
We're not there yet. And then he beats her up again, and it seems though that he beat her up before she went there, right?
No.
On her face,
it was
separate from her cut.
No, it was after the fact. He beat her up, and
His justification
we'll get into
was,
that,
if you're
but
going to
like
be
it was
surviving,
because she's the only survivor. She can't go back into town looking like nothing happened, so that's why he did it. And that was the first time that he hit her. So no,
I think
he had not hit her before that.
I think he's also into it. He just found a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speculating, but makes sense.
No, there's a lot of S&M. There's a lot of S&M in the books that is just kind of hidden underneath.
It's underlying.
In order for it to be S&M, it had to be consensual.
Yeah, it is. She asked for it, so it was consensual. She literally asked for it. He made her ask for it, so she literally asked for it.
Oh, that's true. That's right. Yeah. Okay. I'm teetering on offending a lot of people. Um,
There's no one listening
the
to you.
the run-in, nice, very nice. The run-in with these dudes, is so great. In particular, I mean, we don't have to touch on every little piece of it, but when he literally, I love these things, man. It reminds me of the Dracus when very, very quickly we get his problem solving very fast. And when he does his sympathy very quickly, lowering one hand to the flames, licking at my leg, I focus my alar. The wide pool of burning brand winked out between the two men, leaving the alley in pitch darkness, but there still wasn't enough heat. Reckless with desperation, I touched my bloody side, concentrated, and felt a terrible cold tear through me as I pulled more heat from my blood. It's like right there is all the like, he's doing all this in like an instant, right? He throws the basalt, whatever they're called, shavings in the air, and then boom, has to do all these things to try to make it work. And then obviously it works. And it's such a great image, man. I mean, like he did such a great job of describing how you see a haze of a figure, even though he had his eyes closed. He sees a haze of a figure afterwards, almost like it's like night vision is the way I was sort of picturing it. And they're all just like
I love
falling around and screaming and shit. It's great, man.
I love the visualization of the arc of basalt that's strewn out, and then the subsequent fortitude of Kvothe having to not be able to light it off of his own merit, but also having to then touch his blood, and finally then like bam, lightning in your face.
Well, and
it was almost like he called the name of lightning, and that's what they say.
And it's like it's one of the things that makes books better, that is because it's things you can only do in a book, because you can't go from he throws shaving into the air, tries to light it on fire, it doesn't initially go on fire, and then he touches his blood and then does it again and lights it on fire, because in the book you can say all that stuff, and so you have the time where something could happen in a blink of an eye, but you could spell out like the million different thoughts that go through someone's head, the million different things. Whereas like in the story, like if you throw sand up in the air, well, like you would just have to show it catch on, lightning or whatever.
Dude,
and then
he just looks like a
you
wizard.
only have like 1 second to shoot it. Whereas in the book, you can spell out all the different thoughts that run in through someone's head in a second.
Yeah,
it could do like $1 Million Man and go.
Yeah. I mean,
and Kvothe touches his side, slow motion.
Yeah,
touches the blood.
I will say it will be. Well, I mean, I guess you could do quick cuts and show all these quick things that he has to do, and that this thing didn't work, this thing didn't work.
Way better.
But you could still make it visually impressive, like that boom of light. But yeah, for me, this, and then like when he literally calls lightning, they're gonna be hard pressed to recreate. For sure.
Yeah, because the reason it's cool is you get sympathy, an act of sympathy and an act of desperation, and you get
I was going to say, you get his panic.
It doesn't work. Oh shit, now I have to fucking step it up a notch, and now I'm going to touch my blood, and now, my whole body goes cold. What are they going to do?
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you do the cold?
That? Like, how do you go from I threw it up and it failed at first? You could do it in slow-mo, but you still don't get I tried it and it failed, and then I touched my blood, my whole body goes cold, unless you're going to like have his body turn blue, or
I was about to say,
narrating or something.
Have his inner thoughts
it's
broadcast
like,
as a narrator.
No, it's going to be lame. Like you're just going to have to just like
graceful.
Show him throw it and like touch his blood or something, and then just light it. You're going to have to, you're not going to be able to show how dynamic that scene was, and it teaches you a little bit about sympathy and like on something, like he talks about how it'd be easier to light something else on fire, but this specific substance takes a very
ton of heat.
A lot more heat, and so he had to go to extra lengths, and you can do that in the book because you can fucking write 5 paragraphs that are describing 1 second of his life, Whereas you just can't do that on a show.
What's also great, I mean, in regards to the book's advantage, is that we're getting these gradual steps of him getting more and more, control of sympathy, and more powerful, you could say. But it's more like intuitive, or more resourceful. Which, I mean, he's off the charts in terms of resourcefulness, man. But yeah, I mean, you can still, obviously, I think you can do a lot of visualization, a lot of justice. But yeah, the idea of him turning vascular blue to insinuate he's getting cold or the binder's chills, that's problematic.
I just figured it out. The way you would do it is you do like a pause, and then you show me walk onto the screen, and I got like a laser pointer. And like I pause the screen, and then I explain what's happening and inside his head and what exactly he's doing, and you just have me like jump in and kind of narrate everything. And
that's really good. That's a really good way to infuse
You're on a proposition Lionsgate.
It's a really good way to infuse the elegance that's in the book. You know what you should do? The dinosaur that comes in, the dinosaur cartoon in Jurassic Park when they go to the thing, it should be like that. It just comes in, it's a little genome.
You just have DNA, like a DNA molecule, like bouncing on the screen, explaining what's going on. Like that way you don't lose anything. You can do movie and book, and you don't lose anything.
What? And
that's the best way to do it. You try to do the book and the movie without either losing anything, and it works out perfectly when you do it that way.
And think about it. Every time that scene comes on in Jurassic Park, it's great. Every time. It works every time. They pick the right little cowboy voice, and it's fantastic. So you're injecting new elegance.
If it worked in Jurassic Park, that's a big movie. Like, it surely would work in every other movie.
Yeah, that's how movies work. You just take something from one movie about dinosaurs and DNA and just put that right into a movie about magic that's set in medieval times. That works.
Yeah, people love repetition, repetition. Do it again. Same thing. That's what people like about movies.
So as far as the narration goes, I'll continue on because he continues to bring the scene to life as he always does, with these guys like burning up their feet and them seeing the lightning glance across their faces, going blind. Then you don't find out till later that the other guy knocks his head against a pipe or something. It's just so fast paced. And how could you ever recreate all those scenes?
Well, no. So again, part of what the advantage with the books is he's listening. Like Kvothe is listening very intently, and that's kind of what's guiding him. Because as I listened, my vision cleared enough for me to see the vague outlines of the alley. He could see dark shapes of both men. One was kneeling, it keeps going. But he's basically being led by his other senses, right? By his ability to hear what they're doing. And they're like, I swear I'm blind and all that stuff. And it's great. And then, but again, we get that panic too, where he wants to be able to say, when I went to try to find the finder on the guy's body, he was like, I wish I could tell you I stayed calm and I pulled the finder, or I said something to scare the shit out of him, but I ran like a frightened deer and I got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, he ran to the point where like he ran into like the rope that they tie the horses to. Like he fucking just ran into it and just like fucking hooked himself.
Yeah.
Well, prior to that though, he does
fucking
stop
hurt
himself
so bad, like running fucking straight. Fucking full sprint into like a rope that's tied to posts, and you just fucking flip yourself over it.
I've done that. Took my knees out and I flipped over. It sucked.
I've seen you run headlong into a freezer. I have not seen you run into a rope.
Oh, that was a lot of drinking, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, okay.
It was
I know where the freezer. I know where the freezer was on the outside of the house, and I know we used to. Yeah. So that one, I don't picture it, but I can definitely imagine that playing.
Turn the corner, full sprint, straight into a freezer.
Oh, that's when I popped my shoulder out of place.
Shoulder up. It was fucked up for a long time.
It's never healed. It's still fucked up. Every time it rains or it's about to rain, I can feel it. Well, you could have kept me from
Man.
doing that, Dan. Why didn't you step in, huh? You're
It's
supposed to watch
funnier.
out for me. You're supposed to watch out for me,
Funnier to
bro.
let it happen.
If there's one thing about Dan, he does love comedy.
Yeah. I will sacrifice your health for comedy.
That's good to know.
But, you know, outside of that, so, you know, he gets away from him, and then, you know, he goes up to his place, gets in there. There's not much to say about that. You know, he just he finds Denna's note wedged in the door, but he doesn't really read it until later. So then he moves on. Next big thing, though, is he goes into the what would you call it, the courtyard, and he's you know, he throws out his blood to get it to catch on the wind. But what's interesting about it is when he's watching the wind, and he's like, you know, it's just going everywhere, it doesn't make any kind of sense. And then he's like, but then wait a minute, when you look at it a little more, there is a pattern. And then you're like, wait, no, it's patterns shifting on patterns. It's patterns just constantly shifting. It's a constantly changing thing. But there's you know, he starts to see the wind, and you start to it's an example of him in that sleeping mind taking over, and he's almost sees the name of the wind at that moment, and then Elodin comes up on him and startles him out of it. But he was very close. I think that's a great example of him like starting to learn the name of the wind right there.
Yeah, there's a number of things that
he's actually tying tar bits to his hair, right, and throwing them out, and he does like a dozen or a half dozen different directions. It's not his blood. He feels that he knows that when he starts doing it, his blood's wet, and then when he's done, when all of a sudden he comes to from Elodin, his blood's dry, and he's like, how long was I looking at this?
Yeah, there's a couple things that are fucking great there. So like we talked about how he doesn't get the finder. That's the reason why he has to be on this rooftop to begin with. And it takes us to this amazing freaking scene where I think a number of things are happening there where he's probably somewhat exhausted. He's still kind of drunk. He's disoriented. And I think all of those things together allows him to access his sleeping mind to a degree, right? Because he's just, I mean, he's disoriented. He's bleeding and all this stuff. And he just kind of, he starts to watch it and it lulls him in. And I think maybe part of that also speaks to his natural abilities. Because the way it's written, it's tremendous. And yes, of course, Elodin shows up right at that moment, right? I mean, of course.
Yeah. It's great too when he's like, he doesn't remark on the fact that Kvothe, you know, looks like he
shirtless,
just got fucking mugged,
bleeding,
shirtless,
blood all over his hands.
Fucking and like he doesn't remark on that. He just goes into he only thing that he sees out of the situation is he sees Kvothe like looking at the name of the wind, and so that's what he's focused on. He's like, it's good, you know, it's a good spot, it's a good time of night or whatever. And then he's like, you know, interestingly, this place was thought as like the questioning hall, but there was a misinterpretation. It's actually, you know, the wind hall, or what does he call it?
The House of the Wind.
Yeah, people thought
the House of the Wind. Yeah,
that's House of the Wind.
Yeah,
well,
he calls it the House of the Wind, and then Kvothe obviously, and then he's like, okay, crazy man. It's like, dude, you just like fucking almost saw the name of the wind, and you just like completely dismiss his, like him explaining to you, like, hey, you know, you almost saw the name of the wind. Well, actually, this is the House of the Wind. And Kvothe's like, okay, crazy dude.
Yeah. So going back to what we were saying about the visuals for like a show, this would be amazing in one way, and then also probably be a letdown in another. One, Kvothe sitting there, shirtless, bleeding, dried blood on his hands, all that, Elodin next to him, like that visual image. I see that like as a very memorable part of a series, like just that visual image in itself. But how do you capture that wind description that he was? That's going to be very difficult. I mean, there's some CGI that would have to be done there, but
I think you could do that itself, like that. The way I see that is music, like American Beauty, watching the bag floating around, and like you could do it like in that kind of way.
Well, in music,
I'm going to throw this out that they could not have done when he said the patterns inside patterns, and how he had described it before, and what I really got from what the whole 360 degree scene was, which included leaves in my head and everything. I don't think that there could be a scene on TV that could match it.
Have you seen?
I don't think they could match it.
Frozen 2?
I have, Tim.
No, I love that I bring there's like a character that is literally just the wind and leaves. They did it.
Actually,
so
though,
just do that.
I think it's a little fire.
I have the Disney Plus, so like I put on Frozen 2 and I made it like 5 minutes, and it was like, what the fuck am I watching? Off.
Yeah. However, that movie made a lot. But that movie made a lot of money. So what they did with the leaves, according to your theory from what we just talked about, they should just take it. Do what they did in Jurassic Park with the narration in the alley scene, and then here just sweep in Frozen. Even play the soundtrack. It worked.
You ever do that
By
though?
the way,
like
Tim, it's not
as,
a dinosaur.
As an adult, you like start thinking about like shit you watched as a kid, and then you put it on, and then you're like, well, no, this is terrible. What the hell am I doing? Like, no, Yeah, I can't recreate this. I can't go back. I can't go back to being 7. It's never going to be the same
Jurassic
again.
Park the other day with Patrick, and Jurassic Park was as good as I remembered it.
But Jurassic Park, adults love Jurassic Park.
And Dan and Tim, it was a DNA.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was the genome. Yeah, I know. But he turns into a dinosaur.
Well, I did say that's
what Dan did say. Yeah. But
I'm sorry, Tim said.
But yeah, no, I mean there are certain movies. I mean, Blues Brothers holds up for me personally.
Well, you're talking about like movies that should hold up.
No, yeah, I get it. But
hey, coming to America, that holds up.
Well,
yeah. It should.
Every Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every
Those
Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
They need to redo those, remake them.
I'll tell you this much: Willow did not hold up.
I haven't seen it since I first saw it when I was a kid.
We have a friend that
Iron
he
Eagle
will
doesn't
never
hold
listen
up
to
either.
our podcast ever
Iron
again
Eagle.
because you just said that.
I know.
Yeah, he says Willow is the original Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It's his favorite movie ever.
He says it's like defined his existence.
Yeah.
Moving forward from that point in his life. It's pretty funny.
But outside of that, like he goes back and he reads Denna's note, and I don't have anything really, that I would need to comment on that. And then he goes to another inn and fucking chills out for the night. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I don't know if you guys got.
He does finally realize that Denna's the one who wrote that note and reads it.
Yeah. But I don't have like anything specific about that note to remark on other than that he found it.
Well, this whole chapter he's been going back and forth from Imre and looking for her, and finally he realizes she was looking for him and cut out.
Yeah. I mean, I will say about the note, this is a tremendous sign that she is into you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, pick up a hint.
Yeah, she basically says...
This isn't a hint. This is like a smack on the head, dude.
What a terrible way to, leave a message to someone. That's a fucking gamble of all-time gambles. Like, I'll just wedge a note in their window, and they'll find it. Like, what? What a dumbass fucking decision by her.
It worked. It worked because he found it. We know he found it, and then we still leave. Then we come back and get it to cap off the chapter.
According to her, it was it was
like a week,
30 days later or something.
Is it that much?
Yeah, apparently she thinks he only travels in and out that window.
No,
no, you're right.
When he finds out when she put it in there, it was
like 2
multiple
weeks.
spans of days. No, it was multiple spans.
A span
is
and
11
a half.
days. A span is 11 days. It was at least over 22 days. It was at least over 2 span. Because he says he hadn't gone that way in over 2 span or something.
It was a few days after the fire in the fishery, and he was injured. So why is he's not gonna climb up on roofs? Of course, she doesn't know that, but still.
Yeah. So it's been a while. It's been well over
The
20 days.
the other thing we do also get here is a taste of that existential threat that represents when he's at war with Ambrose. He has to get a gram. You know what I'm saying? Because like he's got to get hairs out. Now he's got to get blood out. He's got to go to the freaking river to like. Once we get, so that gives us a taste of like, geez, man, like you got to do a lot to prevent someone from being able to get to you. And then when he needs the gram, it's like, dude, this is a constant threat on your person. Yeah, and man, he does such a tremendous
From here
job
on
with
out.
that.
Yeah, you would think like at the university, like that
Well,
would
we're
be
not
their
there yet,
first thing is like they all learn how to make themselves a gram.
Yeah, that's very strange. Well, I get that. I guess there's certain parts and certain things that are involved that you can't have that access to. But yeah, man, especially
They
with
should.
yeah, I was going to
They
say
should.
with what they're dealing with, there should yeah. I mean, I can
Granted,
understand.
like there's not many students like Kvothe that have people trying to murder them. He's kind of a rare bird in that scenario, but still, like
Yeah.
you think like first day's lesson how to defend yourself from someone trying to murder you. Like,
Well, I get
useful information when you're learning how to like rip people's body parts, off their body.
or if nothing else, like allow people to buy them. Right? Like
Yeah.
it should almost be like something
yeah,
they
you
give
make
to
them.
you
Yeah,
once
like
you become
when
an
you become an
you're in the
Allir.
Arcanum.
When you become an Allir, they give you a gram.
Yeah, that would make sense to at least help you defend yourself.
But does
Jesus.
Or you can buy one.
Let me-
Yeah.
quick
Like,
question.
Well, that's
Does,
what
go
yeah.
to the market and buy a gram. Like,
We don't hear
I
that-
don't
that's not
understand what the
capability.
argument is. Like, why they wouldn't sell them to the students. Like, what would the argument be? Like, no,
Well,
that's offensive. That you would want a purely self-defense mechanism. Like that's pure self-defense. You can't even use it for offense. And they're like, no, that would offend people because then they would think that you think that they might attack them, and that's offensive. Like, well, get the fuck out of here! No, give me that.
for the
Give me one.
payoff in the book, it does give us something for him to actually. He has that challenge. He has to do all that work and he has to get to it and all that. But yeah, I get
it
logical
ends up
reasoning suggests
it's a great
this
chapter,
argument.
and I literally have I had not considered that. Like, why is there not a market for grams? Like, but it was just like
There
when
is in
I
our
just,
world.
as we were just talking now, then I started thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, that makes no sense. Why are they not fucking selling these things?
There's definitely a market for grams in our world, that's for sure.
Yeah,
It's hot, real hot.
get them anywhere, everywhere.
You grow that pinky
So
finger.
there's
pinky
nothing.
nail.
Just a little clarity here. It's definitely that what Chronicler was wearing around his neck was not a gram. It was just a bar of iron, right?
Just a ring of iron. Yeah, it was not a gram.
There's no significance to people who have grams as far as the Fey creatures go, or
No.
is there?
No,
Dan,
grams
okay.
are very specific.
Actually,
things.
Dan, let me ask you, do you think it was a giller or a gilder? Which one do you
A
think it was?
giller is an arcanist who
Yeah, I
works
know.
for a
You
master.
don't remember? You don't remember
A
getting all
gilder-
frustrated about not
Yeah.
knowing the difference?
Yeah, and I'm just telling you that a gilder is what the arcanists wear around their chest, and a gram is a gilder plus. Or I'm sorry, a gilder is a gram plus.
Well,
Yeah, I
explain
got
to
that
me,
shit locked down now. Like, I got fucked up one
so-
time. Like, yeah, I don't
I
get
think
it.
a
I don't-
gilder
it
is
doesn't
also
happen
like
fucking
a-
multiple
Dan,
times.
explain
I'm
it
like
to me so I
Kvothe.
never get fucked up.
I'm like Kvothe. I learned this shit. Once I learn it, it's fucking in there for good. I got it down pat. Won't fuck up again.
It's not even relevant,
us
but now
understand the
Fitz wants
difference,
it explained.
Dan.
It's not even relevant
What?
to what we're saying. I
I
was just
wanted to
fucking with
explain.
Dan.
I want to know what a gilder is. I think it's something that these guys get, and what the difference is between a gram. Just tell me.
I just told you. Like, a gilder is what the arcanists wear. Like the
That's what
like
Abinthy had.
Abinthy is wearing that he
Kvothe
touches.
touch.
It shocks his hand.
Yeah.
It's like a
Anyone know?
gram plus. It's what you get when you become an arcanist. All the arcanists have a gilder. It's how you know they're arcanists. Same thing when he meets Caudicus. Caudicus is wearing a gilder, and so he touches it to see that, and then he's like, it bit me. And when he's playing that role.
Yeah.
And so that was how he knew that Caudicus was an actual arcanist, because he had an actual gilder. And a gram is like a gilder, but it's more than that. A gilder is a gram, mechanism. But more. I don't know what other capabilities a gilder gives you, but it's at least a gram that protects you.
So what's a gram? What does it protect you against?
Magic.
That's what we just talked about, man. Like when I was talking about, he has to wear it.
When Ambrose is attacking him, and he needed a gram to be able to defend himself against attacks.
So it defends you against sympathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a force field against sympathy.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's so Kvothe doesn't have to be on edge all the time, ready to defend himself, because he can, but you got to sleep at some point. So that's why the gram gives him that release, that ability, and he wears it on like his forearm.
Yeah,
it's like strapped to his
one
forearm.
For the mayor.
Okay,
but that was it for that chapter for me.
Yeah, me too. I could bring up something else from early on that we could then debate out and rehash if we want to do that.
Yeah. Bring up more chapter or episode 3 shit.
I was just fucking with you, and then Fitz had to turn it into a lesson of sorts.
I want to understand. So, chapter 70 is called Signs. Kvothe overhears a conversation at breakfast at the end. The Chandrian have just slaughtered an entire wedding 60 miles away in Trevon. Kvothe visits Devi and borrows 20 talents to buy a fast horse. He has to promise her to tell a secret passage into archives to get her to agree to such a large sum. Guys?
Yeah, I like in 70 when he comes up and he wakes up, he's completely disoriented, he doesn't know where he's at, and then it takes him a second to realize what the hell he had done the last night. He realized, he probably wasn't thinking clearly. But I like it, the part where he's like, my hard-won instincts from Tarpeian were urging me to run, leave this place, leave Ambrose and his vendetta far behind. But that feral part of me cared only for safety. It had no plan. I couldn't leave. I had too much invested here. My studies, my vain hopes for gaining a patron, and my stronger hopes of entry into the archives. My precious few friends, Denna. I like that rundown of when he's like going through that panic state, and then he's like, no, I can't leave. There's too much to do. I have to fucking stick it out. Like I cannot be ruled by my fears.
Yeah, it definitely tells you how far he's come.
It's almost like a list of priorities.
But yeah, and it tells you how far he's come. I mean, and that part of him still exists. It's been getting batted down, and we just got a hint of that with the alley, where he's like, this would have never happened to me in Tarpeian. I would have never allowed myself to be, taken advantage of in this way. But yeah, I mean, part of it is, shit, man, there's a lot more to his life now. So it's kind of worth the trade-off, I think. Right. And that's what he's saying here. So
what's interesting too, is he doesn't mention like his hunt for the Chandrian. Like that's still, that, and obviously, and that's going to be, as soon as he hears about the Chandrian, he's fucking bounding off after him. Like, So that's clearly his priority, but he doesn't mention it. It's not at the forefront of his mind. It's only when the Chandrian are mentioned that light bulb switches on, that's all. He leaves his studies behind. He leaves the university behind. He's right before that, he's talking about like Arwell will be pissed if I'm late or I don't show up, so I gotta fucking get back there. And then he hears Chandrian, and he just fucking throws all those other thoughts to the wayside, and then it's all about the Chandrian. That's clearly his number one priority, but it's still in the back of his mind.
Yeah, it could be that it's folly. If you've ever woke up in that situation, like after you pass out, have you guys ever fainted? Like when you wake up from fainting, you don't know what the hell happened. But, and this is the way it seemed to me at the beginning of this chapter, he immediately lists his priorities, importance of survival. And I've been in that situation where, you wake up in a stark contrast of any knowing, and it's immediately, where am I at? What am I doing? How am I doing? Is anyone, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, you get that a lot when you like fall asleep in the afternoon or something. And
Yeah,
and then you
yep.
wake up and it's night, and you're like, thinking like, did I miss work? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like a list
Like,
of.
oh, I took a nap. That's what happened.
Yeah, it's like a list of, wait, where am I at in this day? And like, have I caused myself any trouble? Like, what do I have to do now to get like caught up with the situation? Yeah. Yeah, it's very disorienting.
But yeah, the mention of the Chandrian throw him on a totally different trajectory.
It's really cool. I mean, I like to put myself sometimes, periodically in the seat of or the shoes of a first time reader, and it's like, boom, suddenly we're on a completely different trajectory than where we were. We have completely different concerns, right? And we're going a completely different direction. And it's coming right off of he was just attacked.
Yeah,
right?
like, I mean, all that shit just goes out the window. Like, getting attacked, thinking about, like, now I got to get to the university. Is Arwell going to be pissed at me? And then it's like, Chandrian, boom, focus completely changes, and we go in a totally different direction. It comes out of left field. Like, there's no, it's not like it's a gradual shift. It's just like, boom, a complete, makes a complete right turn. And completely shifts his focus. As soon as he hears about him, he goes up to those guys and, get the, I shouldn't have said gentleman. And, that was a mistake. And then he fucks it up by sitting there telling him, like, I heard there was some trouble. The guy's like, well, I don't know how the fuck you would have heard about that, because I just fucking came from that place on the first boat, and I've been here for fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what you're fucking selling, dude, but get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
Which is surprising. Kvothe's out of his element finally.
Well, it's
he finally can't sell something. Usually he's savvy in that way.
Yeah, it's very realistic in the sense of these guys reacted the exact same way I would, where it's like, dude, get the fuck out of here, man. Why are you listening
to walking up to me?
Yeah, why are you getting involved in my conversation? You're clearly eavesdropping, and he's not very not very good about his approach. It's pretty clumsy.
No, there's a surefire way for a stranger to be made uncomfortable around me is to jump in the middle of one of my conversations. Like, I don't have that ability to hide the fact that I don't want you around me, to walk away, go away. Like, who are you? Why are you listening to what I'm having to say? Like, now I really don't like you. Get away from me.
Yeah. Not only is it like, hey, dude, some serious shit I just been through. Like, this just happened. And someone's like, hey, did you
let me hear about it?
Huh?
Dude, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, tell me more. Tell me more details. Yeah. I like
at that point, you're just better off just going straight at it and be like, what happened? That's crazy.
I like when they move past it and he's trying to figure out how far Trevon is from like the bartender or the waitress.
Yeah.
And she starts asking other people, and it plays out much like it does in reality, where everybody likes to pretend that they know, but you can tell by their response they don't really know. And it's like, dude, can I get an actual close to accurate answer here? Like, does anybody actually know, instead of giving me these innocuous fucking terms that don't really mean anything?
Yeah, and I like too, though, that when he asks her like how far it is, and she's like, it's a few days or up the stream, and he's like, I didn't ask how long, I asked how far. Then she's like, all right, settle down, and then she does the same exact thing, fucking in response to the other guy, like same exact fucking thing. It's fucking funny. That's pretty great. Very human fucking thing.
And the guy gives the same answer she gave, making the same assumption she made. But then she's like, I asked how far.
Yeah. Like, hey, stupid. Like,
that's really funny.
Right after she gets fucking snippy with him for doing that to her, then she does the same exact thing. It's fucking great.
Yeah, and then Arladin's explanation of what a league is in the same vein, just like, just it's a random number that people want to seem smart and tell you about what they think it is. Is it league? I forget.
They say league. Guys. He's like, nobody measures in leagues. It's just your way of saying, I don't really know. I have a vague idea of how far it is. Like when someone says like couple 3, you ever get that? People like to say couple 3 days. It's like, oh, so you have no idea. Like, this means nothing to you, what we're talking about. Yeah, follow up with me a couple, 3 days. What? What does that mean? A week? 2 days? 3? It's got to be, those are 2 different numbers. You know, like, I hate that type of shit.
Where people I don't know, like, 20 to 80 hours.
Yeah, it bothers me.
Okay. Well, that narrows it down for me. Thank you.
It really bothers me when people do that, where it's an innocuous answer on purpose, where you're literally not trying to be accurate, and you're saying it through the way you're communicating, which means you don't respect this communication that's going on right now. Like right now in this moment, you're not engaged.
So,
or you could just say, "I don't know."
Yes, I would prefer that.
From here on out, Tim, if I say something like give or take, an hour and a half, you're not going to be very happy, are you?
Well, give or take an hour and a half has a certain connotation. Like you would think, like, okay, so like an hour to 2 hours. But if you said give or take an hour and a half, and you meant like, anywhere from 1 hour to 100 hours. Like, no, that's not a give or take, buddy. No.
What if I just say an hour, give or take?
No, what I'm talking about is more like when someone says, I could take an hour, maybe a week. Like, what the? What? That range doesn't help anything. Yeah. You're literally just confusing.
No one's allowed to say that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's kind of an extreme, but yeah. Yeah, but again, that's one of those things that rings true for reality. It's like, the average realistic buffoonery that you find in most people.
Hey, but you know what? It seems like everybody measured long, and Kvothe gets there on the positive side sooner than expected.
Yeah.
But then, so he gets his supplies, and then he goes and meets up with Devi because he's got to get money for the horse.
Yeah, that's a nice little revisit. It's also a nice little revisit to what he just did. So we do get that. It's like we moved on from the alley, but she brings it up, and then we get, he gets that, that he's passing, that celebrity, not celebrity, but he's got his reputation that's making its own, spreading its own existence.
I do like though that she's like, she's got that fucking, she's quicker than him, and she's more mature than him. And
she comes on to him immediately.
She's like, when she's like flirting with him and coming on to him, he's oblivious to it. He doesn't see it happen at all. Like, he doesn't even remark on it.
He absolutely does
she's
not
like,
acknowledge it.
Take a seat, unless you'd rather have a bit of a lie down. She nodded playfully towards a huge curtained bed in the corner of the room. You won't believe the story I heard this morning, she said, laughter hiding in her voice. And then he does not remark at all on the fact that she just made like a little fucking funny pass at him. Like it rolls right off his back like nothing fucking happened.
I think
it seems like every time he goes in there, Devi offers her up.
She does.
She does.
Yeah, she constantly flirts with him, and he does not. He's oblivious to it. She specifically, like in a later scene, once he finds access into the archives and he knows a way, and she's like, I'll give you fucking 20 talents. I'll give you 40 talents. I'll give you 60 talents, and I'll take you in the bed right now. And then he just ignores it.
I think this is part of what really fucking pisses her off, because, I mean, when a woman, she's coming on to him, she's basically she's being subtle at first, and then when she throws herself at him and he just ignores it, like doesn't even make a response to acknowledge it, I think, that probably rubs her the wrong way, man. I think it probably offends her quite a bit.
I never get the feeling like that she gets annoyed by it. I get the feeling like that she realizes how inexperienced he is and how oblivious he is. I get that kind of feeling, like that she's fucking with him, that that's part of the fun for her, is how oblivious he is to it, that she can fuck with him and kind of fucking spin his wheels, because she keeps doing it to him. And she doesn't ever remark on after she fucks with him and shit. It's not like she presses the issue. She just like, it's like she's being playful, and she's just fucking with him, and she knows he's a little inexperienced boy, and he's just getting fucked with by a much more mature girl, even though she's not old, but she's clearly, more mature in that regard than him.
Do you think it's his ignorance or his
Inexperience.
uninterest?
No.
No, I'm saying, is he uninterested or is it his inexperience? Because when he finally breaks free from it is when he meets Florian.
It doesn't.
And he goes headlong into it and
it doesn't register.
Flies right at it in complete ignorance. In complete interest.
Yeah, it doesn't register.
The way he describes her. Yeah, in the way he describes her gives you the impression that he thinks she's attractive, and he likes her. He's friendly with her, but not. He's obviously there's only one girl that he's like head over heels in love with. Like, I mean, Denna's his fucking chick. He's locked that down where that's it. That's his main focus. But I don't get the impression that he's not interested in Devi, like that he doesn't find her sexually attractive. It's just that he's, so inexperienced. Like, she's, intimidating in that regard to him.
He does the same thing with Fella, and Fella's coming on to him, and he also, it's as if it doesn't register. It's like he knows
Devi,
she's attractive.
Yeah. Devi's more
like
explicit than
I
Fella.
know. Yeah.
But like with Fella, he treats it like with Fella like it's absurd that like she doesn't want me. She's absurd. And like with Devi, when she kind of flirts with him and shit, he's just like, he gets a little uncomfortable. I think he realizes she's flirting with him, but it makes him uncomfortable because he's a little fucking kid. I mean, it's, I've been in those scenarios as like a young kid where the girl's way more aggressive than me, and when you're like in middle school or whatever, and it makes you uncomfortable because you don't know what to do, you don't know how to handle the situation. So that's kind of the way I see it with him, with Devi. With Fella, it's more like he doesn't believe that the signals are actually signals.
It just seems like it keeps coming up and the signals are undeniable. And so maybe he's unexperienced, maybe he doesn't register, but it seems like a disinterest almost, that he's so interested in Devi. It's the only way I can measure it in my mind is that he's so in love with Devi at this point.
Denna.
There is nothing else to focus on. Denna, I meant Denna. I didn't mean Devi. That Devi's saying, hey, you want to go roll in the hay, throw in the bay? You know what I'm saying? She is offering it up.
Yeah.
It's not the first time.
He never, yeah, but I mean, like, the only, when he talks about her physically, the only descriptions he gives of her physically is her being attractive. So I don't get the impression that he's just not interested. I think he is intimidated by her.
But also, it seems like his mind doesn't go there yet.
No.
When he comes out of the Fae, his mind can't go anywhere but there initially. It's constantly there. And he has to check that back and then kind of come back to grip. But then he's a ladies' man after that because now he's opened up that part of his world. I mean, that happens. There's realism to that. And like Dan said, I mean, I'd been in that position before where women that are older than me coming on, I mean, it's uncomfortable. And people say, if they could relive their lives, that was those moments were horrible. It's a horrible position to be in because this is like what you want, and then you don't even know how to act, and it's like just like viscerally frustrating and almost like it's like nauseating to think about, like how you acted.
It's almost like
did not act.
Kvothe. It's almost like Kvothe going into the Fae was a coming of age or a sowing the wild oats, where prior to that he had no knowledge of sex.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like that. It's exactly that. Like he had no knowledge of it. He had no experience, and then fucking Florian fucking
what it was.
Opened that fucking flower for him.
But he also understands it through insinuation and story and things of that nature. But it like Dan just said, it hasn't flowered for him. You know what I'm saying? Like he hasn't gone there in his own mind. So he's not there. So he's not seeing the opportunity because it's not something to go for.
No, I mean it's clear as day that Florian flipped that switch on. Like without her, that switch does not get. I mean, like the girl at the bar fucking totally trips him up when she makes a pass at him. He fumbles. Like, that's kind of how I see him with Devi. It's like that girl in the bar, when she fucking makes a clear pass at him, he gets flustered and doesn't know what to do. It's not because he's not attracted to her. It's because he's inexperienced. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. But then once he goes in with Florian, and then when he comes back the next time, then you don't fuck it up after that.
Yeah, he gets exhausted.
It's a very literal. It's a very literal coming of age.
Yeah,
that's the thing. He's so oblivious to it at this point. It's just it's remarkable. It's obvious.
It is. I like the where it goes with Devi and the fact that she takes care of his wounds. That they kind of they talk the story out. We get to hear more about his legend spreading in a couple different ways. Where it's can you spread rumors for me? Would you mind doing that? And then it comes back in when she's, stitching him up. I thought you weren't supposed to bleed. There's another legend proven false, So their back and forth is pretty great.
Yeah, when he talks about like getting her to spread the rumor about him, like that's a great line. When he's like, did I really blind the one and the other's still unconscious? And then he goes, would you care to spread a little gossip of your own? I asked. That depends, she said. She gave a wicked smile. Is it terribly exciting? Drop my name, I said. Let them know exactly who it was. Let them know I'm mad as hell, and I'll kill the next ones that come after me. I'll kill them and whoever hired them. The middleman, their families, their dogs, the whole lot. Devi's delighted expression faded to something closer to distaste. That's a little grim, don't you think? I appreciate that you're attached to your purse, she gave a playful look. And I have a vested interest there myself, but they weren't thieves. They were hired to kill me. Devi gave a skeptical look. I tugged up the corner of my shirt to show my bandage. I'm serious. I can show you where one of them cut me before I got away. It's great in a couple of regards. I like that fucking imagery of, dude, I will kill you. I'll kill your fucking family. I'll kill your fucking dog. And like
Joe Pesci
that kind
moment.
of fucking threat. Yeah. Total fucking spaz out mode. Like, and then you also get a little information about Devi, and she's pretty fucking gangster, but to her, like, she's like, I don't want to fucking go that far. It's not like she's like, oh yeah, no problem, I'll fucking tell him.
Yeah, man. I like her a lot because she even mentions, when she talks about herself, she says news travels quickly among us unsavory types, but it's mostly gossip. So she casts herself in that light, and we know what her occupation, what it's like, but it's nice to get that image that she's like, nah, that's a little much. Like, she's got qualms, she has a line that she's not willing to cross. It seems, at least. Yeah. And we see that further. She's a really interesting character, man, because she is willing to get her hands dirty, but at the same time, she does have, some sort of moralistic code.
Yeah, she seems like she works by a code for the most part. She's always, she at least from what she says, she's not had to use anybody's blood to go find them. Everybody's always paid their debts. Like, she wouldn't do that. In this instance, she's not with Kvothe getting bloody with her, talking about the vengeance. But she doesn't know that it's actually his life that's being threatened and not just his money.
Yeah, but and also, she's extremely powerful. And so, if she wanted to be, to go that extra gangster mile, she could. There's not many people in the world that would be able to stop her. But she doesn't go that route. She uses her power as a threat to keep her safe. She uses it defensively, but she doesn't seem to use it aggressively. It's more of a, don't fuck with me. You don't fuck with me, I won't fuck with you. But it doesn't seem like she's not evil, obviously.
No, that's part of what I really like about her that I find so interesting is she has that power, and she's like she's a chess player, right? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have showmanship. She doesn't give a shit about any of that. Like, she has the power to do some real ill shit, yet she won't do that. She does it for her own uses. It's more the threat than actually acting out on these things. She's not trying to intimidate people. She has her business that she has figured out a way to make it work for what she wants it to work for, and she utilizes it. And it's I respect the hell out of her, man. She's an interesting character in those senses.
Yeah.
She really is. And I'll throw out also that everything we know about her personally also could be somewhat false. We kind of assume that she does have a moral code. Other people talk about her and call her Devi the Devil or
Demon Devi.
The demon.
But
so there could be more to it than what we know yet.
Yeah, but we also hear, like, when they talk about the rumors between her and Kvothe, like, they're false rumors. Like, I mean, and we see the stories that people tell about Kvothe that are false. I don't get we see Devi enough. We get enough of her in person to know that, like, the actual, like, look, if she was Demon Devi, she would have just killed Kvothe when he attacked her. The fact that he attacked her, he went after her, and she did not fucking kill him, shows you that the what people say about her as far as Demon Devi it cannot be accurate, because she would have killed Kvothe.
And that gets completely tied in too when he comes with Mola and helps Kvothe, and they have their little allegiance and that whole thing, how it plays out.
Yeah, and she makes peace.
She's great.
She has the reason she has animosity towards Ambrose is because of how he treats women. He beats his whores, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, we know he's a piece of shit.
She's not evil. She's not evil. She's not evil.
As far as just to play devil's advocate, she still has a reason to not kill Kvothe. At that point,
not a good
later
one.
On, again, to get into the archives.
Well, she could have told him at that point, "Let me into the archives, or I will kill you," and she doesn't do that.
I think
she had complete control of him.
If
she was going to go that evil route, that's the time to do it.
If people are intimidated by her power, they know what power she's capable of. She's been kicked out of the Arcanum for it. They're going to spin that in a negative manner. That's just how that seems to be how the university works. It seems to be how they spin those things to begin with. They're intimidated by power. Makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense. And there's nothing controversial about that as far as I can tell. So it would make sense that that's how they would cast her. But it makes...
if she wanted to do evil, she could have done evil. She could have multiple times.
Could you see Devi being some kind of a spark, Kvothe owing her the promise of letting her into the archives, her being the one that goes in there and figures out something that should not have been known, and
not now because he doesn't owe her anything anymore. By the end of the second book, he doesn't owe her anything. He's not relying upon her. He doesn't need her for anything. So no, like, I don't see a scenario where Devi plays a pivotal role in some bad aspect. She's definitely not evil. I mean, we see there's too many interactions. I mean, she's one of the few characters that we get a bunch of different interactions with. She's like a Sim and a Will, where we get so many interactions. We learn enough about her to know she's not an evil person.
Maybe I could see her, when they get the band together, I could see her playing keys,
Yeah.
I could see that.
She's definitely tickling the ivory.
Yeah, you could get her in there, right? Or, but literally, like, when I say get the band together, I mean, it could be, I don't think Rothfuss would take the route that I'm about to articulate, but, Alodin, Kvothe, Devi, as many people as we know that are good, that have these strong capabilities against Cinder and Grey Dalcenti and the crew. I don't think he'll do that, like a head-to-head face-off with a group of people. I don't think it'll play out that way, but I could see Devi, having some role in that if that was to happen. But
yeah, I don't think we'll get a Lord of the Rings, the good guys versus the bad guys.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be Kvothe versus the bad guys, or I think it's going to be individual performances.
So then it's more likely that Devi, since Ari's the manager of the boy band, then Devi is, she's the girl. She's the girl.
She's on piano, man. Like I said, she's tickling the ivory.
There you go.
From what we know in this, in the way she taunts it, seems like maybe she knows a little bit something about tickling the ivory.
She like dressed like Elton John.
Like how do you turn that perverted? Tickling the ivory, like
I'm a white guy.
It says what? Slander. Jesus.
Well, then the other aspect of it too is that I like is when they go through their deal when he tries two things.
Well, I was going to say she does force him to like tell me how they hired you. Tell me what evidence you have, right? Mm-hmm. Like she kind of digs further, like were these guys really hired to kill you? Like so he has to go through like the details, right? Like they knew I was a redhead. And are you sure they weren't just hired to scare you, rough you up a little bit, like all that type of stuff? And then have you gone to another, borrowed money from another, whatever she is? And then, so she makes him sort of tell him, which I like. She's shrewd enough to be like, I'm not just going to take you on your word. Like if I'm going to believe you, then you need to, give me the evidence. But yeah, I like how that plays out. And he kind of she talks a little bit more about she doesn't need blood to get people to settle their debts, but it helps. And they kind of go through that.
Yeah. I mean, she's obviously a badass sympathist. She could fuck people up. She can fuck Kvothe up. She can fuck almost everybody up, even at the university. I mean, she battled Elxadal to a standstill. It sounded like so. Yeah, it seems like she's pretty fucking is pretty capable of defending herself from attack. And which also would mean that she's pretty capable of going on the offensive. But I like when they're trying to make their deal and, Kvothe doesn't have good collateral. And then he offers up the future prospect of getting into the archives. And you get that sense that she wants in just as bad as him, if not more. One thing that I'm very curious on is why she wants in, because it seems like she's in a position where if she needed access to books, she has the money and the capabilities in the position where you would think she could have pretty good access to books. Like it doesn't seem like it would, like, I mean, how many books can you read in a week? Seems like she could have a steady flow of books coming in where she'd be able to fucking be reading to her heart's content. So it doesn't seem like that's why she would want into the archives. It seems like she wants specifically into the archives for some reason.
Yeah, her ambition and persistence with Kvothe of how bad she wants to get in there and wants to know that secret entrance tells you that she's got something more in mind.
Yeah, I mean, she was willing to fucking give 40 talents and give up the booty for it. So,
well, I like the way it plays out here, where he talks about, I'll find the way in. I haven't found it yet, but I will. And she's like, that's a lot of if. Devi's tone was skeptical, but her eyes were full of something more than simple desire. It was closer to hunger or lust. I could tell she wanted into the archives just as badly as I did, perhaps even more so. So yeah, I mean, he peppers that in when it gets mentioned that she's freaking desperate. And then, yeah, she ratchets that up real fast where she offers money, and then even herself. Yeah, so that is an interesting question for sure that, has to be sort of addressed. I was going to mention also that I always appreciate, man, Kvothe is willing to put his balls on the line, man. He's offering up everything he has. He's offering up his past, like rhetoric and logic. He's offering that up. He's offering really his prospects for the future that he has at this point with his talent pipes. Obviously, he could win those back, but still, that's a big risk. And then also his sympathy lamp, which he's not supposed to give out to anybody. So
that's the one thing he doesn't offer up. That's the one thing.
I guess that's true.
He refuses that, but like I mean that shows you the difference. Like as soon as the Chandrian are mentioned, all thoughts of another semester at the university go out the windows, and he's willing to risk everything There's no thoughts of Denna. There's no thoughts of anything else. It's like, I need to get there to see what's up with the Chandrian, and it doesn't matter what the risk is. I have to fucking get there. Like, I mean, you get a clear example of like he talks about all this other shit, but clearly the Chandrian are the fucking priority, because as soon as the Chandrian are dangled in front of him, he'll fucking sacrifice everything possible to fucking get there.
Well, and yeah, what becomes abundantly clear, because we don't really know he's getting a horse until he starts talking to Devi, and it's like his mind's made up. He needs a horse, travel as fast as he can, hard ground, like get there as quickly as he's dropped absolutely everything else that was in his priority, everything that was on his mind. It's all gone, and that is all he's looking for, is to get there as quickly as he possibly can.
The amount of money that we're talking about comparatively to the rest of the story,
it's huge.
20 talents. What's the most we've even talked about? 4 or 5? Like it's big business.
Yeah,
getting this horse.
For
an hour and a half.
He'll be able to sell the horse, but still, like, even
he's setting himself
throw that aside. I mean, the horse could die. I mean, like, something could happen, and then you're fucked.
He's all in.
And so, like, he wouldn't fucking take that gamble for nothing. So, it's a monster fucking deal. Like, I mean, clearly the Chandrian take more importance than Denna. As much importance as Denna is to him, the Chandrian take a higher level of importance, even if he's not thinking about it. If you just dangle the Chandrian in front of him, that takes a higher priority to him than everything else. And so he goes fucking balls to the walls to fucking get it, and is willing to take some major, because like the idea that he would risk a 20 talent fucking loan for anything, in the idea that like he knows, like, by not going to these classes that he's going to get a higher tuition. Like, before he hears about the Chandrian, there's nothing that would have made, he wouldn't have gone and saw Denna if it meant that he was going to get a higher tuition. And he's willing to not only get a higher tuition, but to fucking take a massive gamble too. Take a huge loan.
To put that into perspective, his original loan was 2, or was it 4?
4 talents, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is 5 times that amount.
Yeah.
And like you said, let's say the horse dies, he's fucked. I mean, he's friendly with Devi and all, but now he's in such a hole that's his life from this point, is just trying to get out of that hole. And he doesn't have a tremendous amount of prospects to make money and stick with his, studies and everything else. So it's a massive.
Yeah, he would have had to get her in the archives, but yeah, that would have been his out. But still, I mean, he would have been in fucking dire straits.
There you go, Fitz. Go back to your 80s rock bands.
I love that band. Yeah, I love Dire Straits.
That's a band?
Romeo and Juliet. Yes. Yeah, Dire Straits, man.
I want my MTV. Yes. That's your song, Dan.
I want my MTV. That's
so old.
So, but the one thing, the one thing that Dan,
so old, and you guys are so old that you remember
Mark
80s
Knopfler
rock
one
bands
of the best.
That no one's ever heard of. And
people have heard of Dire Straits.
You guys are like, have you watched Frozen 2?
Just
That's how old you guys are.
That is
you guys
funny.
Are like Frozen 2 and rock bands no one's heard of.
It's pretty funny that those two have dropped within the same episode. Although the idea that no one's heard of Dire Straits is kind of absurd. But I was going to say...
It's only because you're that old.
Dan's referenced this before, but again, it's a great callback where their original debate or haggling... Devi says, we're not bargaining here. I'm just informing you as to the conditions of the loan. He does the same exact, he quotes it. He says it again to her here when he's in the position of, I'm borrowing, this is what it's going to be. It's 20 talents or nothing. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear from the beginning, which is like literally what she said to him in their first negotiation.
On their first meeting,
It's a great little callback. Rothfuss is the fucking king of callbacks, man. He's tremendous payoffs, man. And there's a lot coming up in this next chapter that it's just like repaid reading, man. It's just it's so beneficial on the additional read throughs that you get all these payoffs that you just wouldn't even know were there in the first time around. It's great.
Yeah, I love me my my Devi chapters. She is
Well-
the fucking baddest chick in the books.
Well, and you like Kvothe getting the upper hand finally. Like finally, we know Kvothe has something that she wants.
I don't like
She
Kvothe getting the upper hand on my girl, man. I don't like that at all.
Jeez. Yeah.
okay. Well, either way, whether you like it or not, he
Characters
does.
in a book,
And
and you have a
finally he
jealousy
has-
issue.
So it goes to
That's
what
my girl,
Devi's
man.
all
That's
about.
my girl
Devi,
you're talking about, bro.
Devi is her main thing is information, and Kvothe, that's the only thing he can hold over her head, which is the access into the archives, and he's got a leg up on her here.
Yeah. He gets her to fucking come to terms with him, and he finds her weak spot. That tempting her with the access to the archives. That's her weak spot.
Yeah, he leverages it.
I'm trying to remember, like on the first read through, if that was, I think that came as quite a bit of a surprise. It gets hinted at that when he feels the wind or something inside the archives, and he sort of thinks, "Yeah, I wonder where." And then, like maybe he's
It's down in the that's when he's in the under thing
With Ari,
and
yeah.
he smells like leather or something.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was a piecing together from two different sort of layerings there.
You're right,
But
though.
I do remember, you sort of get a hint, and then, but again, on my first read through, I don't know if I caught it as much as on additionals, but yeah, it's
like I don't think I realized, like, when he's exploring the under thing with Ari, that he discovered the entrance to the archives, but it jumps from that to him talking to Fella. Like, I mean, it's either happens in the same chapter or the next chapter where, like, he feels, smells the leather in the wind or something like that. And then the next chapter is him fucking coming all torn up, with his clothes all fucked up. And then Fella comes out in her, with the bed sheet on, with no clothes on underneath. And that's when he's like, hey, do me a favor. And then the next scene obviously is her fucking running into him in the archives. So it kind of just dances around it. It doesn't spell it out though.
Yeah. It's those little cues, little hints, because I remember when he's in the archives, there's also a couple points where he's like, I wonder, like where the air would come from, something like that, something hinted at like that. But
yeah, it's a draft.
He talks about that
he feels the
afterward. I
draft
think
first
is
when
like
he's in
after the fact, like
archive.
after you find out that that's what it was. Then he was like, of course, like the archives would need, access to fresh air or something like that. And so there would have to be a place where fresh air is coming in. And so he found it.
Yeah, and he's good. He's good
There's
to his
a
word,
mention of-
even
of
though he
a
doesn't
waft.
tell her. He does find it. He said he would find it, and he does find it.
There's even the first time that Kvothe opens the door to the archives, there's a mention of the influx of air when he walks in, I believe.
That was pretty much it for me on that chapter.
Yep.
Okay, then chapter 71 is titled Strange Attraction. In this chapter, Kvothe haggles with and ends up buying a horse for 15 talents from a horse salesman. This horse takes Kvothe just outside Trevon pretty quickly, where he meets a tinker. The tinker trades Kvothe Trevon stone, which is a magnet, for his horse, and a blanket, and a shirt, and a brandy for the saddle and tack. Kvothe ventures into town, finds a bar, and inquires about the wedding. The bartender leads Kvothe to a lone survivor of the wedding, and it's Denna, surprisingly. Guys?
Couple great parts that I love in this chapter. I love the interaction with the horse salesman, and I love the description of him riding to Trevon. Love the description of how he rides the horse. But I love his negotiation with this horse salesman.
Yeah, it's great.
Because this is how, like, I would deal with a salesman in any situation.
Like if I'm gonna buy something, like I'm already walking into the store knowing I'm gonna buy something. So don't fucking give me your sales pitch. Like as a salesman, I don't need your fucking sales pitch. I'm the easiest sell ever. Just show me what I want, and I'm gonna fucking buy it. And we're not gonna have to fucking dicker around about it. And that's Kvothe's mentality in this situation is like my mentality in all sales situations. So I love that aspect of it. But I love the listen. I interrupt again. I'm in a hurry, so we're gonna skip the preliminaries. I won't pretend I'm uninterested. You won't waste my time with a parade of hacks and nags. If I have not bought a horse in 10 minutes, I will leave and buy one elsewhere. I met his island, Sava. Sir, the purchase of a horse should never be so rushed. You would not pick a wife in 10 minutes, and on the road, a horse is more important than a wife. He gave a bashful smile. Even God himself, I cut him off again. God's not buying a horse today. I am.
Yeah.
Such a great little fucking interaction.
There's a lot of great building in terms of his knowledge of horses, because we don't really get much of that. We buy it as soon as he talks about troopers live and die by the horses that pull their wagons, and his parents had not neglected his education in that area. So, and he goes into pretty great detail about times where, people would try to take advantage of them because they're on the road. So they try to stick them with a horse that's not going to last long, and then they're going to be down the road away from them anyway. So they try to rip them off. But that's why it's so important that they understand their horses. So he's going into this with knowledge, which we get so often with Kvothe, which is tremendous. And yeah, he's not fucking around. And he has to repeatedly make it really clear to this guy. And if I remember right, he even threatens him. Yeah.
Very, the next part, like he brings out like some bullshit horses, and he's like, you've just wasted 2 precious minutes of my time. So I'm guessing you still don't understand my position here. Let me be as plain as possible. I want a fast horse ready for hard riding today. For this I will pay quickly and hard coin and without complaint. I held up my new heavy purse in one hand and shook it, knowing he could tell the true ring of true sealedish silver inside. If you sell me a horse that throws a shoe, or starts to limp, or spooks at shadows, I will miss a valuable opportunity, a quite unrecoverable opportunity. If that happens, I will not come back and demand a refund. I will not petition the constable. I will walk back to Emery this very night and set fire to your house. Then when you run out of the front door in your nightshirt and stockle cap, I will kill you, cook you, and eat you. Right there on your lawn while all your neighbors watch.
Jesus.
Yeah, not. We already know how serious Kvothe is because what he went through with Devi and spending that much money. But then, when it comes down to what he actually needs the money for, getting there to find out about the Chandrian, we find out how dead serious he is.
Yeah,
because he's willing to commit arson, murder of an entire family, and then I think he said something about eating the family.
Yeah, he
right?
There are
cannibalism, the whole 9 yards.
There are quite a few moments where, when there's importance on the line, he does not fuck around, and he does not make idle threats, or at least he makes people believe this is real shit. I will fucking come back here and murder you, and I will do it viciously. Like,
now, granted, I don't think he would actually cook this dude and eat him, but the threat gets the point across.
Yeah,
quit fucking around.
And it works.
Fuck around. I need this shit. Let's get it done.
Yeah, and it works.
And
the
even
guy
still, even this, the balls of that fucking horse salesman is after he hears that, he tries to fuck Kvothe over with his horse with the painted fucking foot.
I love that whole back the painted the horse of a different color. That whole element he uses is so great, dude, because again, this is repay reading, because you see how well he does it, how much he peppers it in. There's little hints like, well, why did he come down on his price so quick? And then the payoff with the tinker's tremendous, because he tells him, oh, well, you think, well, all right, so you figure out why the horse salesman came down on his price so quick, because he thought Kvothe called him out on his bullshit. because Kvothe doesn't know his what's the language?
Seal dish.
Yeah, seal dish as well
Seal
as
dish.
yeah. Because he called him what, like one sock or something like that.
That's
Yeah.
what he actually named him,
Instead
but
of-
he thought he was naming him
Twilight.
like Midnight,
Twilight.
Yeah.
or Twilight. But yeah, it's
So
great too
great.
because he's like, there's a couple good parts on that where he's like, "What's your name, boy?" I asked gently so he could get used to the sound of my voice. He snuffed delicately at my hand, keeping close watch with one large, intelligent eye. He didn't back away, but he certainly wasn't at ease either. I kept talking as I came closer, hoping he would relax at the sound of my voice. "You deserve a good name. I hate to see some lordling with delusions of wit saddle you with some terrible name like Midnight or Sooty or Scut." And then when he starts talking to him in Sealdish, he goes, the horse gets, it's familiar
Gets
with
more
that
comfortable.
language.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like,
Yeah.
I wanted to say Twilight, but I couldn't bring the Ciaru to mind. Rather than pause, I just pulled ahead, faking it as best I could, as I eyed his hooves to see if they were chipped or cracked. "To Keth Salin, are you first night?" The big black lowered his head and nuzzled me. "You like that one, do you?" I said with a bit of a laugh, knowing that what really happened was that he caught the scent of a package of dried apples I had tucked in one of my pockets of my cloak. The important thing was that he had a feel for me now. If he was comfortable enough to nuzzle at me for food, we could get along well enough for a hard day's ride. "Keth Salin seems to suit you for a name," I said, turning back to Kearva. "Anything else I need to know?" Kearva seemed
Perfect timing.
disconcerted. What's that?
It's perfect. I mean, because he says
Oh, yeah.
it and then says, "Anything else you need to tell me that you're not telling
Yeah.
me yet?" I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
what's great about it is it's similar to him when Elodin hears that he gave Ari her
Ari.
name.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's like, what
Yep.
made you think of Ari? And then in this one where he's like, he thought it meant one thing, but it meant one sock, which fit perfectly with that horse. Where like it shows his naming ability is what it does. It
Well, and
demonstrates his naming ability.
By the way, the Kearva kind of gives it away. He seems get disconcerted and he shies a bit on his right side. So he almost like gives it. Correct that. Instead of giving it away, he's basically saying, well, be careful of his right side. It'd be less likely that he's going to figure this out if he's being careful on that side. You know what I mean? Like it would be like, oh, if he's favoring that or something, it would almost be like, he's. I don't
even
know.
know. I think
bet,
he was
I
just
guess you could
given
say.
a natural warning on that part. I think once he called him, whatever that name was, when he called him that name, I think that Sealdish man was like, oh fuck, you figured it out.
Yeah.
And so at that point,
Was the sock on his right side?
He was a beaten dude at that point.
Yeah,
And then
so
it was just like, well, just as a warning, then he's fucking just completely bound down to Kvothe at that point.
So I like, just like a first time perspective of it, how Kvothe is talking to the horse, and you really get to feel like, okay, this horse is taking to him, and you don't realize it, that when he actually says the horse's name, which he names him correctly, you don't realize it, but when he does that, the horse nuzzles his ear like, yep, that's my
Well,
name.
I like, in particular, what I like about it so much, he keeps talking about Arladin. He keeps talking about his father. He keeps referencing, like, this is the way you do this. And so it's nice because it builds more into him, and you're seeing, it's not just like, if he was just doing it, like, this is the thing you do, it doesn't build as much, that it's building from something he's experienced before. And we've already, we have respect for his father and how he, interacts in the world, and how he has knowledge about these sorts of things. So the whole thing, it's really great. It's paced, and there's so many things that are playing out on top of one another, with the negotiation with, the horse salesman, as well as Kvothe with the horse, and the intricacies that are involved there, that it doesn't matter what he's saying, but he's still saying things, trying to get that familiarity. Always got those dried apples in the cloak. There's a special pocket for those dried apples to
Maybe that's what it
tempt the
was.
horse.
Well, I
Well,
like
you know,
the differential between him thinking like I'm gonna try to work him down to 19, and I'm just gonna go through the motions and see if I can. He's willing to pay 20, and then but he's like, I'm gonna see if I can work him down to 19, and then the guy comes back with 16, and he almost shits his pants. Like, oh, shit! It's like,
well,
then he's like, all right, I'll give
the,
you 15. And he's like, is he going to fucking take this? And then he takes it and it's like, holy shit. He fucking took it.
I love how he goes further and he does the same thing he does with the Tinker, which is 15 and that with saddle, tack, bag of oats. I need all these things with that. Yeah, it's great. And he takes it and he's just like, Jesus, took all my stage training to keep me from like, shitting my pants visually, basically. But
yeah, he's like, the shield seemed uncomfortable meeting my eye. If I didn't know horses as well as I do, I would have thought I was being swindled. Maybe the horse was stolen or the man was desperate for money. He just didn't realize like his naming ability is what fucking did it for him.
It's so great because again, on the first read, I remember just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Something's going on here, but it's not enough to be like, to delve into it further. It's just let it sit there and we're like, something weird there. And then as we go through and he walks through the solvents and then the Tinker's like, dude, you're lying to me. And then he sees it and he's like, I would never lie. I would never lie to a Tinker. And then it's like, oh shit, man, I wasn't lying. This motherfucker got me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the few ones where Rothfuss, and not only does he pay you off in the books, like he pays you off in the same chapter.
Well, and it's
something's up. You know something's up, and then you find it out later on in the same chapter.
What's so beautiful about that form of payoff too is the Tinker literally says, "Well, you should have known from the name. You don't like your Sea Eldish isn't that good." It's like, well, I fucking named him. It's like, well, you didn't even know what you said, man. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's
great.
That's the big payoff for us is that that shows his naming prowess.
So, did you guys, even though despite the sock, the course has one sock, the whole time that he's on his way to
Trevon.
He's Trevon. I'm sorry. It's a long and somewhat arduous trip, but you never lose faith in that horse. That horse seems to be a real strong and awesome horse. So anyway, I'll bring back that horse seems like maybe it has something else to it.
Well, the horse.
Maybe we'll see him again. Maybe we won't.
There's two things. The horse is tremendous. Kvothe is tremendous at managing a horse. It's the combination of the two things. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I love that. Rothfuss. It's such an interesting thing because we're in a freaking rush here, and he's trying to get there as quickly as possible. But he's not an idiot, so he has to pace him out. And the way he has to pace him out, it slows everything down. But we still have to get there. It's a really interesting choice for Rothfuss to make to even do this. You know what I mean? To even have this.
And Rothfuss quickly dumps on us that Kvothe knows what the fuck he's talking about when it has to do with horses.
Well, it's the walk. Well, and there's a great line in particular before we even go into it, which is about the owners being the biggest problem of horses. It's the mismanagement of the horse. So they don't know how to manage the horse. They run them out too quick, and they're like, I got this nag. And it's like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. You got to build them up, and then it's. All of that stuff, it's tremendous, and it builds the world out. It makes it all more realistic, because you can't
it's like most problems with horses have nothing to do with the horses themselves. They stem from the ignorance of the rider. Folks shoe the horse badly, saddle them improperly, feed them poorly, then complain that they were sold a half-lame, sway-back, ill-tempered hack. I knew horses. My parents taught me to ride and care for them, while most of my experience had been with sturdier breeds, bred to pull rather than race. I knew how to cover ground quickly when I needed to. What's interesting about reading this is I don't know shit about horses. I don't fucking know anything about it. Like, he could be just completely bullshitting me, and like all this information is fucking horse shit, and it's not accurate at all. Like, fucking horse shit. And so, like, it could be all misinformation. But it seems like when you're reading it that Rothfuss really fucking knows horses, or that he researched horses a lot. And so like it's really well written in that. It's same way like with his music. It's a very similar, like when I read this chapter, it's a very similar feel to when he describes music is to when he describes horses. It feels like he knows what the fuck he's talking about, like in a way that I don't think that a lot of times when I'm reading other authors, like, and they're describing different scenarios, I don't think like, oh, this guy really knows what the fuck he's talking about. I do think that when Rothfuss talks about music or he talks about riding horses, like, this motherfucker researched his shit is what I always feel.
I was going to say, there's two sides of that. One is that occurred to me in this read through too, where it's like, man, I wonder how many people he talked to about, riding a horse for a long period and what it would take, and then what complication could come up. Or he is just a very, very good writer at convincing you of his version of the truth.
Completely full of shit. He's just so good at it.
But some cowboy is going to read this book and be like, "That motherfucker."
Well, what's really interesting about it is it's logical, right? And we buy in, and we get to the point where it's like, wow, I almost feel like you feel like you took this trip. You feel like you went through it with Kvothe, and you're like, oh, so this is what it would be like to take this trip, but to do it the right way. And that's one of the beautiful things about what Kvothe is capable of, is everything he does, he either does it the right way, or if he fouls it up like tremendously, and he calls himself out the entire period. You know what I mean? He gets a lesson off of it. It's very real to life in that sense, man.
Well, like, what's interesting is, like, I've read a lot of stories where there's people that are riding horses. I've read a ton of them. I've read a lot of stories where music.
I've never had this staging presence of the riding of the horse, the slowing down and the canter and the gallop and the walk.
Teaching you how to ride a horse.
Yeah. Like
the leg muscles. Like, think about that. Yeah, like how his legs lock up and how he needs to walk.
That kind of
for a
stuff
while.
I have read about, like, people get sore from riding and shit, but just the extreme level of detail that he puts into it, like, that's what's rare. Like like him explaining, like, this is how, like, if you wanted to cover 60 miles in an afternoon, here's what you would have to do. The only way it would work is to do it this way. Like, no one's ever fucking, any other story I read, they're just like, I fucking rode the shit out of my horse and I got there and fucking boom.
Well, I love like, so, when he's going uphill,
football, fucking touchdown.
I love, like, when he's going uphill and there's particularly winding roads, he has to slow down, because if he didn't, he could either hit a tree or hit someone. So he needs to slow that down. And then, but there's little rewards along the way where it's like, but then we came across a brook, perfect timing. Horse gets some water real quick. So this actually helps. But even then, pulls the horse away before he drinks too much. So it's like,
and takes off all the saddles and everything. Takes that all off it. Like, he goes into such detail, like,
of how to handle the complications.
Here's like, I mean, like, we constantly talk about how amazing he is as a writer, but I mean, I think these are like the perfect examples of why he's just on a different level. Because like what we're describing, you would think it should be boring. Like, dude, why are you fucking weighing me down in the minutia of, like, you're taking off his fucking saddle? Like, this is like you're describing the bathroom breaks, man. I don't need the fucking bathroom breaks, but like, he's like doing that, and the ultra realism. But he does it. He just has a ability. He has a knack, if you will. He has a knack for
how damn
going into like extreme detail, but doing it in the most interesting way, where it enhances things where normally it would weigh you down, but he does it in a way where it enhances the story.
Typically this chapter or this section would be, I rode a horse and I got there quickly, and maybe something happened. It would be like the Junpui trip, where it'd be like something happened, but we're not even going to we're not going to visit it. And what's so interesting about that, the June Pui trip, where we just get like 3 little bullet points, it's like, that sounds like a fucking real interesting 6, 7, 8 chapter segment that you could have wrote in, and then he just doesn't do it. Instead, we're on a horse for 4 or 5 pages, which are tremendous. And again, it's great. But again, most authors, I feel like, wouldn't do that. And that's what, again, I mean, I think that's a choice where it's like, I'm going to do this differently in a way that's going to be tremendously interesting in a unique way. And I don't know if he made that a conscious decision.
It's hard to pin down on why, like, it's so good. Like, because he gives so many details, and like he gives like everything, like when the way he explains sympathy and everything, he like goes into so much minute detail. Like, he really explains it out, but every time he does, it's just like, well, this fucking chapter is amazing. Whereas you would just like, if I told you, like, I was going to explain something and I'm going to explain it into minute detail, it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Are you making like a YouTube video on how to change your alternator? It's fucking stupid. And like, no, he's like fucking does it, and it's amazing.
I'll verbalize one detail of the trip that kind of puts it in perspective. The whole time, he's following this brook. The horse gets a couple chances to drink. But then at some point, the brook becomes rancid. He says it has something to do with a tannery or maybe a mine or something. It ends up being the solvent from that mine or tannery that makes it so
gives us the reveal
obnoxious of a smell that that the horse won't even drink from it. That ends up stripping the paint off his leg and ends up showing the tinker.
The white sock,
horse isn't.
I think.
Yeah, the one sock.
I think
so brilliant.
I think to Dan's point, and why I think it's so important to do this is there's so many fantastic occurrences within the books. I mean, we're buying magic, we're buying sympathy, we're buying these things that don't happen in our world. And what things like this chapter does, what the horse trip does, is it's like a ballast to tie down the magical realism of sorts, or the magical qualities to reality. So that's why, like, spending the time to make sympathy like gravity or sympathy like physics, and then to make this horse trip like a literal horse trip. And every step of the way, the complications that would come up have nothing to do with magic and nothing to do with sympathy. It has to do with the horse has muscles and you're going to work the shit out of him, and you better slow down or the lactic acid is going to build up and he's going to lock up and now he can't move. You know what I'm saying? So it's like those realistic elements tie down the magical elements of the book and make it so much more like it. Yes, technically it's fantasy genre, but this is what is so compelling to me. I like the realism interlaced. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it does it in a way like, look, if I was playing a video game and I was riding a horse and I had to keep fucking resting the horse, and like I had to take him from a walk to a camp, I would get so fucking annoyed. Like, it'd be like, dude, just let me go. Let's go. Let's get there. Like, and he has a way of making you enjoy the journey that it's rare. It's not a typical thing. Like, it's like there's a reason why these books are so popular, but I also I don't think a lot of people appreciate how different this dude is. Like, I've read a lot of authors. He's different.
He is. Yeah, and for me it's that he has this ability to, again, well, I mean, this is a small thing, but it spoke to me where he mounts back up on the horse. He's getting back up to a gallop in slow stages. My legs burned and ached as I leaned over his neck. The drumming of his hooves was like a counterpoint to the slow song of the wind, endlessly burning past my ears. So it's just like one of those little things that like were there in that point. And I like when he's using that, like that element of the sound along with what, it's literally the horse and the wind and what's going on there. And then again, another snag comes up. We have to cross a stream. And that's when he takes off the tack and everything else and has to resaddle him. And it takes all this time. which would be monotonous if you're playing a video game or if you're doing it yourself. But for some reason, in reading it in the way that he's delivered it, it's
very
pretty
interesting.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. The only part he loses me on, he completely loses me on when he's like, Kethselen was fast, so fast that the wind tore at my cloak, stretching it behind me like a flag. Despite the fact that I knew I must cut quite the dramatic figure, I quickly grew tired of the drag on my neck, unfastened the cloak, then stuffed it into my saddlebag. No, you did. You look like a huge fucking dork, and like I'm tired of trying to be sold like he's riding a horse and his cloak is fucking flying in the back. Like, you look like you're 10 years old, dude. You look like a 10-year-old fucking nerd running around with your Superman cape. Like, no, quit trying to sell me on these fucking cloaks, man. I'm over them. They're not fucking cool. They're fucking super nerdy. Stop fucking selling me this bullshit.
This is the...
That's right, Dan. And Kvothe was like, and I know how cool I looked with that cloak dragging on my neck.
Now, this is pretty good.
I had to put it away.
So Dan showed up for a story about a horse, and he's hearing about cloaks billowing in the wind. It's like, no, dude, stop selling me the cloak. I want the horse. I want the horse story.
Tell me about like how your fucking feet were in the stirrups and like how they were positioned and fucking like how you were holding the reins. I don't want to hear about your dumbass cloak. I'm over the cloaks. Stop selling.
Just so we're clear,
you already lost the sale. I'm not buying cloaks. Fetish. Quit trying to sell me on them. Like Florian's cloak sounds all right. I mean, that one sounds like all right. You can fucking there's some utility there. All these other ones, fucking just super nerd hour. Get that shit out of here. Get that out of my face.
The constant billowing as if it's just CGI and in reality.
Like, I cannot imagine like if I'm wearing like a hoodie and I'm fucking just riding a motorcycle and the hoodie is like flowing in the back and I'm just sitting there like, oh, dude, I must be cutting this such the dramatic figure. Look at my hoodie.
You're not with a hoodie.
Look at Billow.
You're not with a hoodie. You need a cloak. That's exactly what he's saying. You need a cape or a cloak. You need a Count Chocula cape with a gold chain at the neck.
Hoodie doesn't billow.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hoodie doesn't billow. Get that cape, bro. Get that cape. You'll cut quite the figure.
I think that's what helps Rothfuss out is that I can appreciate his writing because he throws in so much nerdy shit where I'm like, all right, well, he's a great writer, but he's still a huge fucking dork.
Oh, shit. Yeah, well. So where do we get to?
But then,
just don't get it, Dan.
Then the next thing is he comes upon the Tinker, which I think we talk about this all the way back in episode 1. This is we dive into the Tinker in the very first episode, and so now we're finally here in episode 17.
Well, when you say we talked about it, this is the Tinker having the knack and offering the rope repeatedly, by the way. So I forgot that. He doesn't just offer it. He's like, well, I'd like a shirt. And he's like, he offers it up again. He's like, again, so here's your list of things. Here's what I'm offering to you. So even though he kind of passed it, Kvothe didn't take the offer. He tries to give it to him yet again. And then the Tinker just like shrugs like, trying to help you out, bro. But, you can't see it. So just like you walking past Devi's offerings, I guess I'm not here.
Yeah. He does it both times he runs into Tinker. He takes some of their offerings, and what he takes from them plays a part, but what he doesn't take from them would have played, a part. Some of them are minor, like the Tinker and Severin offers him like wax for his boots, which would have helped with all the rain.
It wasn't a deal breaker.
His fucking feet were always soaked.
Yeah.
So if he had taken that wax, or the like shoe polish or whatever it was, like it would have covered his shoes. That would have prevented them from getting soaked. Like, so that would have helped. It's a minor thing, but he was bitching about it.
Kind of like the strawberry wine is a bit
the
minor.
Rope.
But the rope is huge.
Yeah, strawberry wine's minor, but the rope would have played a huge role.
What's interesting, what I also like that he does here, and he does this as well with the Rue. When there's certain individuals that have a cultural sophistication, they talk about the Edema Rue, excluding Kavoth's aunt. They talk about the Edema Rue in a very respectful manner. And those similar people talk about Tinkers in that way. And Kvothe always talks about Tinkers in a very, very highly respectful manner where they're always elevated. And there's always like, well, the road's not that bad. I mean, hey, no one's being rude to a Tinker, so it's not that bad. I would never hurry past and be rude. It's always those sort of mentionings that it's always very respectful. They always offer a lot of not just, items. They offer a lot of knowledge about like these are like the town crier, right? They're like the local newspaper. It's it's where they're getting information.
It seems like all the outcasts stick together, like the Adem, the Tinkers, the Rue, like all these kind of people seem to stick together and have a sense of respect for each other. Whereas like the people who are in civilization and that have, power and money, like they look down on these like outsiders.
Yeah, and it's all about their bloodline.
Very, very much seems like there's like two castes of people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we get even more of that of an element when we hear about Savoy and Sem and how there's this big difference in the caste system even amongst nobles. Yeah. And I mean, you have to. I would imagine that is how it is. That's how the power elites work. That's like the what is it? The Hilton saying, "Yeah, this guy's poor. He's only got like 20 mil." Like, it's like, dude, this is not. You are not realistic to most human beings. You just sound like a freaking brat. But yeah, the whole back and forth with the Tinker's great. The mystique around them keeps building out, which I really like a lot. The Edema Rue and the Tinkers have that sort of interrelatedness, like you were just saying, sort of outlaws stick together type situation, and I dig it. I dig sort of their. It's not like secret society, but it's like a loose adjoinment of.
There's
history.
no question in their rapport. Yeah. There's no question in the rapport between the Edema Rue and...
Well, they both live on the road, so there's a big part there.
Yeah, that too. But there's definitely a mutual respect.
Yeah, but...
they definitely, I mean, they have respect for each other, and they also... They're in a very similar situation as, they're nomadic people. They're not living in a city trying to work their way up into higher echelons. I mean, they're going from town to town, and so they have a lot of commonality between each other.
By the way, the Tinkers too, I mean, think this situation out. The Tinker needs a horse. Kvothe needs to get rid of a horse. I mean, it's freaking perfect. Right? Yeah. It's just a perfect scenario for literally what they need right now, the two of them, in trade. So, and it's like perfect timing. Well, I wish I could help you out, but I need to get to Trevon. Okay, well, you're there. So, he delivers him great news. I mean, it's all like, it's a perfect scenario for the two of them. And the Tinker gets to deliver the fantastic horse of a different color cincher, which is nice.
Yeah. I like that. That it's given further emphasis that the Rue and the Tinkers both kind of have a respect for each other, and when he's like, "Oh, you're a bad liar," and he's like, "Whoa, hold on, I didn't properly introduce myself. I'm one of the Edema Rue. I wouldn't lie to a Tinker on my worst day," and then he's like, "Oh, sorry, it's unusual to see one of the folk on the roads by themselves." So they got that mutual respect.
It's interesting. The Tinker says, "My sincere apologies to you and your family." I've heard that a few times when people speak to the Rue. It's always about the family, and the family is literally like the person eating at your campfire now. Like if you come into their fold, part of the family. Like it's very communal.
It's
Well,
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
nice.
yeah, and that's what
It's
we
a
see
it's
when Kvothe's a kid with his troop. It's a very family oriented thing. It's not like Arladin with his employees. It was like they were all one family.
Yeah.
well, at least that we learn towards the end, at least that it's not really whoever stumbles on them. They at least have to act right.
Yeah.
We learn that from Kvothe that it's not just whoever comes upon him, and yeah, Abinthy comes on him, but he still acts right. He still abides by the customs and is not a dick. Is not some rapist or something like the guys at the end of the story.
I like the back
Yeah,
and forth.
yeah.
Oh.
I get the strong impression that the Rue are they frown on rape. They're not big fans of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, what I meant was they seem like good people. They're
Yeah.
good
Well,
people,
and
they don't put
yeah.
up with people who are
Well,
not
And
that way.
not like mediocre people who are like, rape's not that big of a
inclusive of-
deal. They're like good
it's
people
a
that
gray
think it's
area
bad.
where they look at it as a gray
Yeah.
area.
No, they murder rapists.
Well,
That's what I meant.
Well, here's a super ironic part and the twist to it is
Poison
all
rape.
of these guys that pretend to be a Demaru just drag their name through the frickin' dirt. So the Rue gets shit on all the time by all stretches. Like we talked about earlier, how people would try to pass a bad horse on them, and they're basically like, "Oh, so what? It's just the Rue." Like nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit about fucking over
Yeah.
the Rue because it's like they don't have a defense mechanism or something. It just doesn't matter. It seems in society everybody looks down upon them, except again, as we were talking a minute ago, where it's the upper echelon, real sophisticated, intelligent individuals, like the good people, respect the Rue and respect the Tinkers above, or to a greater degree. While it seems like the commoner, they just they're what you would expect. They're buffoons, so they just shit on them because they don't understand them. It's easier that way, I guess.
Yeah. I also like the description of him getting the sky iron.
Yeah, the Loading Stone.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was funny. It seemed like a meteorite or something. Sky
It's a
iron.
magnet.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well,
That's what they're describing.
What I kind of like leading into that I wanted to mention, because I kind of felt it even in this read through. You're kind of like, I don't know, man. I get tugged back and forth where it's like, Kvothe isn't lying, but the Tinker thinks he's lying, and he's like trying to go overboard to say that he's not. And it's like this back and forth. That type of stuff is great because it gives you that. I know you guys don't like tension, but there's a emotional, psychological tension involved there, And personally, I feel for Kvothe in that respect, but it works out, so you get that little payoff. It's just that those little back and forths are pretty great. But yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
real Pepto
Kvothe
moment.
thinks
Pepto moment.
Kvothe, as he should, thinks that he's the smartest character in this place.
I love the idea
Yeah.
of someone
Meanwhile-
reading a book and like sweating,
Yeah.
and they're so worked up that they're drinking Pepto Bismol, like
Yeah.
just fanning themselves. I just can't. I don't know
Yeah.
if I can take it. Oh. It's so
like, why do you
tense.
read this book? Like, look what it's doing to you, man. Look you gotta stop reading this book. It's destroying you.
I just can't.
Hey, but Kvothe should know at this point, right? Like, we've learned enough that
I just can't put it down.
We
That's
know
literally I can't put it
Kvothe
down.
should know
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, he was in such great health, and then he just picked up this book, and all his hair fell out, and he just really lost it.
I do love though how the Loading Stone is also, again, it kind of goes to he's here and I need to get rid of this horse, and here's a Loading Stone, and this is actually, and he even tells him, if you find your way by the university, which is where I live, then I can unload this and get my money back. Basically, you could. It says like 20 talents, right? Is basically what he can unload this for. It sounds like.
Yeah, and yeah, he was like 18 talents, or you can get more, if
At the
you give it to the
university.
right person. So yeah, he was, it worked out perfectly for him, and they talk about loading stones. We get our first one, and then also like he's able to fucking use it to get the little shell of the Dracus, and so he's able to get little pieces.
Oh yeah,
of,
that's right.
Of Dracus from.
Thanks for ruining that. I was about to get that payoff. I don't know about you guys, but when I read through this, it was kind of a funny thing for me where I'm like, yeah, magnets are fucking crazy. Even in our world, it's kind of nuts that the entire
just fucking realize that.
Well, I mean, you take it for granted, and it's kind of crazy that like my entire refrigerator, I can stick things on it. This is fucking magic,
dude. Like as a little kid, like you get like a magnet and you try to push them together. Like I mean, that's like hours of fun.
Yeah,
as a little kid.
Yeah, it's magical. It is. It's literally like you're like, yeah.
There's like an invisible force.
It's as close as we have to magic. It's as close as we have to magic.
It is magic.
Besides electricity.
It's 100% magic.
It's electricity. Electricity is the same, or
electricity is nothing. It doesn't impress me.
Well, except for like that, the No Limit.
That's because you're
the No Limit Thuggin' album, right? That was magic.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
For all you No Limit fans, it was literally Magic's album was Thuggin'. That was the name of it.
Oh yeah, Mr. Magic.
No, not Mr. Magic. His name was Magic.
Well, he called himself Mr. Magic more than a couple times, and poor Mr. Magic and his wife and child died in a fiery car crash.
Really?
It was a sad
story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Magic Johnson's dead? I thought Magic Johnson was still around.
Why would you do that? Why would you tell me that?
I'm sorry.
I don't even.
I actually like that album.
I'm not even sure I can fucking carry on with this episode.
I don't know what to do. Well, I guess we'll just carry on, even though you don't know how.
Beyond that, like we talked about like the different things that he took from him and the things that he turned down, but then he goes into the town. It's kind of interesting too. Like, I mean, you get a bit of Kvothe's personality, like when he sees, the religious aspects of the town, he gets uncomfortable by it. Like Rothfuss makes it pretty clear that Kvothe is not about that religious life.
I like, it's kind of interesting. It's like, yeah, I'm not religious, but I like Christmas.
Yeah.
It sort of seems like that. Like, he's like, well, I still
he likes that atmosphere, but he's not.
He likes
the religion.
He likes the tradition, but one of the things that I really liked that sort of builds out the town in like a cultural way was the massive wheel on top of the church that was literally made of iron, not looked to be made of iron, not painted like painted wood to look like iron, but actually iron. And he says, ordinarily such a display would have made me nervous, but since Trevon was a mining town, I guess it showed civic pride more than fanatic piety, which is interesting because it's one of those little details that when you tease that out, it could be like, oh, this massive cross, but it's like, no, it's a mining town. So they put this together, made this massive thing to show we're capable of doing this. So yeah, I like that.
Kind of seems like angle. Both. So, like when he meets the town folk, all the people like see him on top of the church and they think he's like fucking Taylor reborn. And like when he goes into the bar owner and he's asking about his cousin, he sees the guy touching iron on a piece of iron, like an iron nail in the board of the bar top. Yeah. The bar. And so like seems like it's kind of both. Like they seem pretty fucking religious.
And Kvothe, I think Kvothe walks in and says that normally something like that would seem daunting. He wasn't daunted by it because he was so headstrong about what his purpose was, getting in there and finding what happened. But yeah, he said normally something like that he would have found daunting in a town.
It would have made him worried. It seemed like it would have worried him, kind of like, I don't want to fucking walk in this town and fucking someone call me a witch. And, that kind of thing.
It seems like
kind of seemed like
it seems like there's a consistent threat to what the Arcanum does from, the rubes of the world. And that's what it seems like. This town's filled with a bunch of rubes.
Well, and I mean, he's seen, like, Scarpy telling his stories, and like he saw what happened to Scarpy, and he understands that the ultra religious people might like take anything kind of abnormal, especially like he's a fucking gross fucking soulless ginger, so that's got to be fucking scary.
Well, we also got
walking into a religious town where they're like good, Telu fearing folk, and they're good Teluans and Talans, and
so this is back
this
to
gross redhead walks into town. That's clearly he's a kind of a demon figure.
This is back to
it's good that that he fears it. It's justifiable because of what he is.
This is back to you probably haven't seen an Arcanist in this town in 150 years. Yeah, that's how we like it. Yeah. You guys don't even know what you're afraid of. Fucking morons. Like, yeah.
We haven't seen a redhead in here in 200 years. Last redhead we seen was torched that kid.
Yeah.
Son of the dragon.
I do like when he
kissed by fire.
When he does come into the bar, just these little things that he incorporates, where at the word wedding, the innkeeper's scowl turns stony, and obviously there's a feel here, but Kvothe could feel the two men farther down the bar not looking at him, pointedly not looking anywhere in his direction. So that's where he's like, it was true then. Something terrible had happened. Yeah, so I forgot about that. So he got worried when he talked to the Tinker, and the Tinker didn't know anything about it. He's like, fuck, man, did I come all the way out here, do all this, and then nothing? And like, as a reader, I think you're kind of getting pulled where you're like, all right, well, then something's happening here. If it's not the Chandrian, something's got to happen here,
Do you think the Tinker didn't really know? Like, he was like, oh, I was visiting family up in the mountains.
I don't think he was lying to him. I mean, I don't have any reason to believe him.
I don't know if he is or not, but I know it's big news.
Well, and then also, even if you get tugged in that direction, you still have to remember there's a guy in the bar. He's not making that shit up.
Yeah, this shit just happened. This is not like old news. This isn't like this happened like 3 days ago. This just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
but everybody knows about it.
Not everybody. Not everybody.
Dude, they don't have the internet,
a select few people know about it.
They don't have the internet. Nobody's getting Twitter updates.
It's a very small, select few people that know about it. Like I
would think to
the point where like when go back into the bar when that guy is talking about it, like the way he knew Kvothe didn't know what the fuck he was talking about was like when Kvothe said that shit, and he's like, I don't know how you would fucking know about it because no one knows about it.
Yeah.
So it's not well known. So no, it did not surprise me that the Tinker didn't know about it, and no, I don't get that that he was keeping it a secret for some reason, because what the fuck would that matter? Because Kvothe finds out about it like when he goes into town. So no, it wouldn't make any sense that Tinker was keeping it secret from Kvothe when Kvothe's going to find out what he needs to know in 2 minutes later.
So here, he actually does a pretty good job where he's like, yeah, I had a cousin, and I heard something went down, and it's pretty great, because the guy's like, yeah, he doesn't want to talk about it, but he can't turn away a family member who's like, it's a pretty shitty thing to do. But then the whole feeling in the room when then he's walking, and then everyone has their attention on him, and he realizes where I'm going, it's not just that a survivor, it is the survivor. You can feel it in the room. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and that builds up to this moment we walk in with him in the room, and there she is.
Yeah, and I love I think it's important when he sees Denna, like her reaction. I think that's important because I think a lot of people misinterpret what the fuck's going on with Denna, and I think one of the things they overlook is that when he sees Denna, her eyes went wide, and for once she was the one who was at a loss for words. She did not expect him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a genuine reaction to Kvothe coming in the room. Like, that's not like, it's not, she's not acting. When she sees him, she's shocked that he's there. So I think that is like, for anyone who thinks like that Denna is playing Kvothe and she's a Chandrian or any of these other crazy theories about her, like that should be the biggest fucking hole in your fucking theory, is the fact that when she saw him, she was shocked.
Yeah, well, and then he delivers 3 7-word sentences, right?
Yeah.
He goes back to those 7s. Those 7-word sentences. The knight in shining armor. I remember this being very, very surprising to me in the first read through, where I'm just like, fuck, really? Like,
Yeah.
holy shit! Like, it's Denna. Like, in the moment, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, of course, it's one survivor, and yeah, I guess of course, but it's also still like, damn, dude, you're pretty taken aback.
Yeah, because, I mean, what the fuck would she be out in the middle of some fucking no-horse town?
Yeah, and he can't.
It was the biggest coincidence so
far.
While
While he can't find her, anywhere he's looking, then boom, he finds her in the one place that he's been, trying to get to for so long.
The one difference, though, Fitz, is the coincidence is that Kvothe showed up, not that she was there for a purpose. Like, the coincidence would be
so.
like from her perspective, it's a coincidence that he would show up.
Yeah.
Like, that's like it does not. At no point does it feel like that she was there for Kvothe. It feels like it's weird that he showed up, not that she was there.
And she says anyone can make the trip after they get the news. It takes a special sort of man to show up when he doesn't know there's trouble. Boom. So he's fucking big swinging dick walking in the door, ready to solve their problems.
Hey,
fucking just smacking
so what's
it around,
the trouble at this point?
flipping and flopping, fucking double donging it.
So, old double dog Dan, let me just ask you. So, at this point, what's the trouble? It's got to be her patron, right? Because he's the one who's punching her in the face.
Well, there's some trouble in the fact that a bunch of people just got murdered.
In a town that is probably. Gone. She's in a town by herself after surviving a crazy Chandrian attack.
Everyone
where she's
around
probably
her just got murdered.
Well, she's probably sitting there
she's
thinking,
not in danger anymore.
What?
Okay,
she's there alone.
She's in a town with that, like, they just saw all their people get attacked by the Chandrian, and she's the only one that survived, and she's a stranger, so there's a very high percentage chance that they're thinking like she had something to do with it. Which is the whole reason her patron fucking hit her in the first place, is because they knew that this town would look at her, and she even agreed that he was right to hit me because they did look at me like I was guilty.
And I kind of remember from the first time reading it that if she mentions that if she would have just ran, they would have been suspicious.
Well, they're suspicious regardless.
There was nowhere to run. Like, she would have. The only way out of that town, unless she's fucking walking.
So again, they're suspicious because a bunch of people are dead, and she's left, and they can't explain who the fuck did this shit. So a bunch of people are dead. There's no one to blame, and she's left, and they don't know who the fuck she is. She's a stranger. So for all they know, they lulled somebody in, or they lulled this wedding party in to get massacred. They don't fucking know.
Yeah, and she could have been part of it.
Yeah, in all likelihood, she's either going to sit in a cell for a while, or maybe they kill her. Maybe they find her guilty of whatever they can.
Yeah, it's not like she can call an Uber and fucking hop out of there. Like, she has to go into town to get on a boat to go upstream to get back to Imre. Like, so it's not like she could just fucking dip out. Like, she can't just start walking back home.
Yeah, so the idea that she's not in trouble she's in a
Yeah.
lot of trouble. But speaking to that, yes, Kvothe comes in. I heard you were in some trouble. 7 words. So I thought I'd come and help. 7 words. Which I don't know if we've talked about that on the podcast as of yet, but she ends up
Yeah.
talking about it, how he does that. And she does something that she does quite a bit, which is pretty great, where her eyes go wide for a moment, then narrows.
Liar.
You're lying. Yeah. Again, which is like the first thing she said to him. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
All over again, the first thing she says. And this is very much in line with kind of, I wondered what you're doing here. But yeah, I am, but it's a pretty lie.
But it's a pretty lie.
Yeah.
Said I would have come if I'd known.
Another
Anyone can
7
make the
words.
trip after they get the news, she said dismissively. It takes a special sort of man to show up when he doesn't know there's trouble. She sat up and turned to face me, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. Yeah, so, yeah, he's all about them 7 words, and she always knows when he's lying. Like, she catches him in his lies repeatedly throughout.
So much to this, man. I know that I'm not getting.
I don't know that
I guess we'll have to go back through it.
What's that?
There just seems these instances of Rothfuss throwing these poignant hints that don't make sense. I don't know what to make of it a lot of times, Dan. I don't know how to make sense of it, so I can't speak on it.
I don't know. Like, none of this, like, trips me up. This all seems natural. I like it. Like, to me, like, when I look at this and I step outside and I'm trying to analyze it, I think that it seems like Denna's patron was using her for some purpose. He needed her to gain information, so that's why she's there. Kvothe shows up because he's looking for information on the Chandrian, so that's why they met. And then, like, the 7 words is because Elodin told him, there's 7 words to make a woman fall in love with you. Her ability to figure out why he's lying, like, I don't know exactly what that is, but I think, I just think she's fucking intelligent. She's his equal.
She also seems to have she has a knack for falling into traps. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if it, in so many ways, but it seems to be a theme of sorts, and maybe it's just her station in life, and that's kind of.
She doesn't really like find herself in that many dangerous situations, though. Like, I mean, most of the time she's in a fairly stable, like.
I guess what I mean by that,
especially for a girl that's by herself, she's in a pretty fucking stable situation.
I guess what I mean by that is I feel like her relationship with her patron is a bit of a trap. So I guess maybe that's. That, I guess I'm extending
the
from
shit
that.
out of her. Like, there's something going on there. That is what I question. I don't question Denna. Like, I question the patron.
No, I don't question her intentions. What
about the 2 characters themselves being, some sort of puppets, or at least being at the right time at the right situation in these huge events?
Well, yeah,
at least something to them.
We've talked about
of
that.
course,
like,
there's something to it. That's what the story is.
It would not shock me if the Emir and the Chandrian or the Angels, like, they have some kind of hand in what Kvothe is doing, and they're trying to steer him, or they're at cross purposes, but whatever. Like, I think there's people trying to keep him alive or trying to steer him. I think there's evidence for that. With Denna, like, I mean, it seems like her patron has a purpose for her. So, yeah, it seems like, they are being manipulated and being pushed in different directions, but what that means, I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of what what the story's teasing out, right? I mean, that's at the heart of it.
I'm looking forward to Dan giving some more insights and more of what he knows. I know he's holding back. I know you guys are holding back on all the theories and the full theories. And I know we have more to come in book 3. So I really am chomping a bit at the.
Yeah,
so the audience doesn't.
I like the fact that you think I got it all figured out. I mean,
the audience doesn't know this.
You know me, and you know, like all my talents and all my abilities, so you should assume that I would have it all figured out.
The audience doesn't know this yet, but Dan has written book 3. He's written it.
Yeah.
He's written his own version. It's
And
8,000 pages.
So
it's a bit of it's a bit long. It's a long yarn, but yeah, there's a lot of poops,
1,000
a lot of
pages,
a lot of washing of hands, a lot of flossing.
1,000 pages is as Kvothe gets a puppy, and it's him training his potty training his puppy. But it's really interesting. It's really
the boy
interesting.
band arc and the Super Mario arc and the Tonto arc to sort of fit all those 8,000 pages and some you haven't heard about.
Don't know if you guys don't know at least a little bit more in the philosophy and theories of this book, and you guys are just egging me on like declining all my theories and just being like, no, that's not what it's about. All we know is what we know, and don't have something else to add to it, then I'll be sorely disappointed.
Well, yeah, I got a ton of like in the next episode, I'm going to give you my my first suspect for Denna's patron. There's multiple suspects, but I'll only give the first one in the next episode. And then I feel like I know what happens with the king. Yeah, the 4-plate door, I think I know what's going on there. And like there's plenty of stuff. Like we're going to this is episode 17. We still got to go back and do an addendum episode to 13 because I feel like I figured out what's going on behind the 4-plate doors. So yeah, we got a ton of stuff.
Well, and it should be also recognized that Dan has laid out a lot of theories. Just Fitz hasn't paid attention to any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That's why he's like, you guys are holding back here. It's just you haven't been listening this entire time.
I'm giving a lot.
So you put it all on the table already. I was just a little too.
Well, I mean, I pulled out just like to throw some shit on the table. Like I've thrown out like who Kvothe's mom is, who his lineage is. I've thrown out the Doors of Stone. I've thrown out the Ruach, and
Ari.
Maybe they spawned into the Tinkers, the Adim, the Adimaru. I've thrown out the princess he rescues, who's behind the 4-plate door.
What else so far?
Like I've given a lot of fucking theories.
Well, you say what else as he's still saying them.
I know. I'm listening to him. Okay,
you're not because you're saying what else?
It's like 16 episodes where almost every episode I throw out a theory. Almost every episode I throw out at least one new theory.
I think the most solid is the boy band for sure, or
Yes.
or possibly
The boy band
and
Tonto,
Denna,
100% the best. theory.
Denna moonlighting as a Jack in the Box.
Oh yeah. That's an amazing theory.
Listen, Tim. The thing is, it's so interesting.
Franchisee.
Franchise Jack in the Box owner.
She's a district manager of three Jack in the Box in the Fae.
Dan has a lot of concrete theories that help me understand the book, and so as we go through them, like I want to keep being reminded because. I don't know if Dan's right. He doesn't know if he's right. You don't know.
Right.
None of Tim's theories are right.
Theories.
So,
right.
So the thing is I'm going through these, and we all don't know what happens in book 3. I'd like to be reminded of the things that actually have substance and not just my theoretical. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not.
Yes.
Dan, you've read these enough that you at least know when to tell me, Fitz. That is not fucking what's going on. Shut the fuck up for a minute and listen to this.
Dude,
that's why.
Look, if I did that, then that's going to take up the whole episode.
You know what the best? The best payoff.
No, I love it.
The best. It's so the best payoff for Fitz is going to be every single character in the book.
Like fucking completely set yourself up for that one.
I know. But it's right though, man. It's such an interesting book, and I have to be on my P's and Q's to keep up with you guys. What do we got coming up?
Yeah, next episode we'll get him and Denna will go to the Mothin farm. They'll meet old what's his name, Shim or whatever is, that bumpkin. They'll meet him in the wood with the pegs.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And then we'll get right to where they see the dragon, the Dracus.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Awesome.
There are no weak chapters, man. I mean, it's every time it's like, oh shit, that's coming up. Oh man, that's coming up.
Like, we're at a point where I think we'll finish the first book in 5 episodes, I would guess. So, including
22
next week. So yeah, it'll end up being around 21, 22 episodes.
21's my lucky number. Let's do 21.
No, then we're doing 22. So I'll stretch it out.
We'll do
22.
Drag it out. 25 is my lucky number.
25?
Looks like we're doing 22 then. You guys solidified it. But yeah, I'm glad we just, really fucking crushed it here at the end here. I think it's one of the most powerful endings we've had.
With we have numbers. Fitz went sideways and froze, so that's cool.
Yeah,
that's good. Good capper at the end there. Which this ties in with his typical appearance, which is kind of aloof, a little misdirected.
I wish the audience could see Fitz's face right now. Like he's just like he looks so confused.
Well, that's again straight, really consistent to his typical, representation. So that works. And now he's gone.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Peace out.